It definitely does look better than it used to.
Quick, who do I look like?
The Anvil, Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
No. How about this?
I don't know.
What if I go like this? No, nothing.
No.
Anton LaVey.
I have no idea who
The
that
founder
is.
of the Church of Satan? No idea. He's sort of famous.
It's not somebody I really read up on a lot.
But he's famous.
Is he?
Anton LaVey.
Is he more famous than Aleister Crowley?
In America? Maybe. It's close.
I guess it depends
But he
on
just died
who
like
you run
he
with.
died like 8 years ago. Aleister Crowley's been there for a long time.
I can't believe you know. See, I didn't even know there. What did you say it was? The Church of Satan?
That's right. He founded the Church of Satan out in California.
I didn't know there was a Church
I
of
knew
Satan.
it. I was buddies with a Satanist for a while, and but I don't think that's even who. I mean, I don't know. I thought everyone knew that. It's funny. My buddy didn't know that. I don't know. Yeah. I thought everyone knew it. He's an evil-looking bald guy with a black beard. And he's got eyebrows like this. And
does he look like a guy that would have founded the Church of Satan? Okay.
And the thing is, there's pictures of him. He used to date. He used to go out with all these movie stars and stuff. And there's a great picture of him. And I'm trying to remember which movie star it was. Just some voluptuous broad in her 60s or 70s attire, and their baby, and they're just dressed in normal garb. And Anton LaVey is there, bald, evil looking with a cape, walking down the street like ah.
I wish the cape would come back into fashion.
Absolutely.
Myself. I would love to don a cape.
I can't remember. You do watch Seinfeld?
Yeah.
You remember the one with the guy with the cape?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
that's the first thing that comes to my mind is that guy creeping out. That was Larry David.
There's a lot of fashion related Seinfelds. The crested jacket episode,
the puffy shirt,
yeah.
The my personal favorite, the coat of many colors, that Kramer wears and they think he's a pimp.
I don't remember that.
Oh God, it's one of the best episodes.
I'm so happy that Eep likes Seinfeld because it gives me an excuse to.
And this is nothing on Eep, but I'm surprised that she gets a lot of the humor in it.
Oh, I don't think that. I think some of it flies over her head, but I think that she appreciates the nonsensical aspects of it.
See that I love that. I love nonsense.
Yeah,
case in point.
I'm built on nonsense.
You ready to kick this back old school?
Yeah, let's
get a swig and then go.
Let's check in with the chat. We got Kate P back again and Creepy Dead Boy himself, Chris. Thanks, Michael.
We rock, yes.
Yeah, that's right, we do.
That's right.
I played some Rock and Roll Racing on the stream.
How was that?
That's a great game.
Really?
Are you familiar with Rock and Roll Racing on the Super Nintendo?
Some of the guys that made that worked on an Amiga game that we covered because I remember referencing it.
Well, the guys that made that turned into Blizzard. That was that.
You know what it was? It was the Three Vikings episode we did.
The Lost Vikings.
The Lost Vikings.
Yep. All right.
I've learned a lot by studying. If only there were a class on Amiga, I could at least get a C, I think.
I think you could teach the class on Amiga.
Oh, please. Amiga and Satan.
That's right. That's the 101. All right, here we go.
I'm ready, Boat. Give me the rocks. Son.
Okay. All right, whenever you're ready, just kick it off.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Era, joined, as always, by a fella known around these parts as the Southern Dandy, John, Boat of Cars, Schaller.
Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Outstanding, Boat, outstanding. So, if you joined us last week, you'll recall that the Retro Roulette chose for us this week to play games on the ColecoVision console. The ColecoVision, a great console, came out in 1982. Of course, it was produced by Coleco and was a pretty popular console of its day. Now, I looked for specific numbers on this, and there's a sort of a gap here. It sold somewhere between 2 million and 6 million consoles.
That's quite a gap.
And trust me when I say I looked very hard to find exact numbers, and we know that it sold about 500,000 consoles by its first Christmas in the U.S., and they're sure by the end of the video game crash that it had sold about 2 million, and they said by 1985 late they had finished up all their stock, and they didn't make any more. But 2 to 6, I'd say it's probably closer to 2. I mean, I don't know how they got 6 out of it, but you never know.
Well, maybe those last couple million, they were blowing them out at $49.99 or something like that.
It's funny because Coleco was big. I was around. It was big. It was gone.
Well, they had, their big hit, the biggest hit they had wasn't video game related at all.
The Cabbage Patch Kid. Right. And they actually sustained their company with the Cabbage Patch Kids for quite a while. And they actually made a bunch of stuff, board games and some other stuff. This game, this console here originally sold for $175 in '82 or '83 in Europe, and in today's money, you're looking at about $450. So that's kind of a bargain if you consider what we've talked about in the past. The ColecoVision was the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive of its time. And the reason I say that is it had all these wacky expansions. We've got one of them hooked up right here. So if you're watching on video, this right here is the base console. This is the ColecoVision.
And I should add that I received this ColecoVision as a donation from a kindly lady at church, Lisa Adkins. Thank you very much if you're watching this, as I'm sure you tune in every week.
Sure.
Thank you for this this ColecoVision that has sat in your garage forever. So thank you.
And it does work, right?
Yeah, it works perfectly.
So, but this is your base unit. So then you had expansion unit 1, which is this little gimmick here on the front that hooks in this front expansion. This played it played almost all of the Atari 2600 line of games. I've got one of these myself, and it works great. It's very compatible. I don't think I've ever had any problems. I think there are a few games that have problems with it. They also had expansion unit 2, which was a steering wheel and a pedal, which I also have at the house, and it came with Turbo, if you'll recall. Remember that video game Turbo? And it's a great version of Turbo. Expansion unit 3 was going to be sort of a memory and I/O expansion. It never shipped, though. Instead, what they did was they used the technology in it and basically turned it into the Atom computer, which was the downfall of Coleco, because the Atom computer was a very bad unit. It had a lot of failures, and they had a lot of money sunk into it. It just basically
Why don't you talk about what the Atom was?
The Atom, well, there are two types of Atoms. There's a standalone unit, which is what I have. That is the Atom computer itself and a printer that hooks to it. And the power runs through the printer. And so one of the problems with this thing is that if the printer went bad, you couldn't use the unit. You have to have the unit to power the printer, and which it's huge too. So it takes up a lot of space. They also had an Atom expansion that hooked to the ColecoVision. I've never seen one of those in person. I like that. I bet it's cool, but it's also huge.
Massive.
And the Coleco itself, without the expansion, is a big unit. It's also got these wacky joysticks, we should probably talk about. This seemed to be the craze of like '82 and '83.
Yeah, it's really. This was sort of the first thing you think about is the Intellivision, because it's got that numeric keypad there.
Right.
Unfortunately, the way that you hold it, is not exactly conducive to operating the buttons on the keypad and the joystick portion simultaneously.
Now, there weren't a lot of games that used these numeric buttons for anything more than generally starting the game, but these joysticks are renowned for not being that good. It did have a place for an overlay, which is something that the Intellivision had, or the Jaguar has.
I like how you use Jaguar in the present tense.
Jaguar has. It still has one. But the Intellivision used the overlays a lot more than the Coleco. I don't think I've ever seen any overlays for the Coleco. I mean, there are some games that had them, but I've never seen one. And these little mushroom tops, they're not that great. Now, one thing I learned, thanks to my good boy Chad, is that once you start a game, you can pop these out, plug an Atari stick into that bad boy, and use it as long as you only need one button.
Yeah, so the saving grace of this console, in many eyes, is that the controllers are removable.
Yeah, that's true.
Thing.
And they're not very long either.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, we should go ahead and take a look at the games. Now, there were when this thing launched, it launched with 12 games, and there were some pretty good titles in there. And then they had another 10 games that came out in '82. Again, this released in '83, so in Europe you were to get you'd come out with about 20 games right out of the gate. And this was packed in with Donkey Kong, and this was one of the all-time great pack-ins. The pack-in for it sold the unit. I mean, it really was way ahead of the other versions of Donkey Kong. And since Coleco had a hand in making the other versions, they didn't exactly go all out for the other machines when they made them. They looked like crap. There were about 145 titles released for this, and so with that in mind, it was our task to choose 2. And I think we picked a couple unusual titles. If anything, at least one of the 2 are pretty unusual. And so I'll go ahead and lead the parade this time around, and we're going to talk about the title I chose, which was Smurf Rescue in Gargamel's Castle. So this game was released in November of '82. And it was actually developed by Coleco. Now, one thing I'll start off with is that trying to find who programmed these games is almost impossible. I could find a name here or there as to who worked on the games or who developed these, but I've got no idea. I know it seems like I read long ago that a lot of these games were produced in Japan, you know, but I don't know if they were outsourced. I don't know who developed games at Coleco, and I looked and looked and looked, and I could not find anything on the actual developers. Did you find anything on the developer of yours?
No, not the Coleco specific version.
Yeah, it's very strange. So Smurf Rescue and Gargamel's Castle, I'm just going to refer to it as Smurf from here on out, is a two-player game, a hot seat game, and I guess you would consider it a platformer. It released on an additional system. Coleco also, as they were off to do, they released this on the Atari 2600, which was basically the main competition for the Coleco back in 82, 83. I've had a look at both of these, and I'll comment on the ColecoVision one extensively, but I will say, having played the Atari one, it's a pretty good effort, especially from your competitor making the game. It looks, I don't know if you've ever had a look at it, but it's clearly not as beautiful, not even in the same wheelhouse as Smurf on the Coleco, but it does the job. It actually controls probably a little bit better, believe it or not. I like the controls a lot better on the Atari, but it doesn't look nearly as good, that's sort of the selling point of the game. So before we get into the game itself, we should probably talk about what Smurfs are, in case you don't know. I mean, Smurfs are still around, but they're not as huge a deal as they were in the 80s when I first heard about them. And I didn't know a lot of this stuff. So Smurfs was a Belgian comic franchise. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that, just like North and South.
Yeah, crazy. You know?
Yeah.
And it was a fictional colony of small blue human creatures who lived in mushroom-shaped houses. And they were done by an artist named Peo. Which you see Peo, his little initials all over the Smurf stuff. There were like 100 Smurfs. And here's something I thought was interesting, just a little anecdote. The word Smurf is a Dutch translation of the French word schnetomf or whatever. And according to Peo, it's a word that he invented during a meal with a fellow cartoonist when he could not remember the word for salt.
Wow. I've never had that problem.
I'm going to tell you something. I have had a problem where I could not remember a normal word, and so I can understand how this guy could come up with that in place of salt. Smurf. So that's kind of wacky. So anyway, if you were in the 80s, Smurfs were like everywhere. They were in your Happy Meal. They were on TV all the time. I was a Snurf. See, I made one up.
That's another thing, right?
Snurf. That's Snarf.
Okay.
So I was a big Smurf fan. In fact, the reason I picked up trumpet in the band was because of there's a trumpet playing Smurf. I can't remember his name.
Interesting.
That's so stupid.
I learned something about you new every week.
Here's a little added tidbit. I had it down to 2 instruments, right? Trumpet or flute. So why was flute in the mix? Because Kwa Chain Kane played a flute on Kung Fu.
Oh, yeah.
But I went ahead and went with the trumpet. I didn't think I could do a good job. I'd be the world's biggest and oafiest flute player.
I would love to hear you play the flute one day.
I could get down and funky, that's for sure. So anyway, Smurfs were super duper popular, and it was only a matter of time before someone made a game for these guys. So Smurfs Rescue at Gargamel's Castle is sort of an interesting game, and it's unusual on the platform. I don't think there are any other games that scroll like this. And what it reminded me of, if you've ever played, remember when we reviewed Last Ninja 2, where you would go, this is a game where it doesn't scroll on indefinitely like Mario. There's a screen, you go across the screen, when you get to the end, the game stops, and then the next screen slides over, and you play that screen. And I remember that back in the day when I saw this, I thought this was really kind of cool, because it felt like the world was sort of vast. You know, the same feeling I had when we did Last Ninja. You play an unnamed Smurf, and your job is to go rescue Smurfette. Smurfette at the time, was the only girl Smurf. Okay, and so your Smurf is a happy fellow. He always looks happy. He's got a real stupid look on his face as he walks around, almost like an idiot. So maybe he's
very, very Gomer Pyle-ish.
He's a very dumb guy, Smurf. So dumb guy, he rolls across the screen if you play on the most basic level. There's not that many enemies. There's no enemies, actually, but what you have to worry about is everything in your environment. Smurfs are, unfortunately, in this game, are prone to be murdered by like small drops in elevation or blades of grass. It will kill them. Or fences is another thing. And for whatever reason, the paths that this Smurf travels have picket fences just right in the middle of the path. I don't know who designed. Apparently, Smurf's architecture not their
right. Infrastructure not there.
No.
Yeah.
So as you play this game, you have a life bar at the top. Now the life bar doesn't do anything except go down. It never goes up, and it doesn't mean you can take extra hits. All it does is basically it's almost like it's basically a reverse timer. When your energy bar runs out, you're dead. So which doesn't really come into a factor unless I guess you're way into the game, or it didn't ever come into a factor with me. So as you go through the game, you are like I said, jumping over fences. You're jumping up and down hills. You're jumping over blades of grass and fences until you get the Gargamel's. Well, also there's a cave you go through. In the cave are these stalagmites that you have to jump over. Now that I'll give you that. You fall on a stalagmite. Those are pretty pointy looking. They could probably impale you. So I'll give you that. But and Smurfs apparently aren't very tough. So once you jump over these, you eventually get to Gargamel's castle, and you see Smurfette, and she's up on like a crate or a table or something, and there's a human skull there, and you have to jump on the skull, then jump up to the crate to rescue her. Now, the weird thing about this game, the best I could tell, is that if you're on the basic level, it really doesn't increase in difficulty that much. You just keep going over and over. The world just loops over and over and over. If you play on the harder levels, so you get some interesting effects. One thing is you'll have critters that come down and try to get you. At first, it'll be a bird, and the birds have a set pattern. They really only come out once. I mean, I didn't wait around long to see if they came out twice, but they just kind of swoop down, and your Smurf can duck. You know what I'm saying? He could bend over, and even when he does that, he looks like an idiot. The look on this guy's face, I mean, it's the dumbest look you could possibly have on a guy. When you get into the caves, there are bats on the second level of difficulty, and then there are spiders that come down on the levels. They have little spider webs. The spiders will come down, you have to jump over them. It's still not super tough. On the third level of difficulty, the obstacles are placed closer together, plus you've got all the additional stuff that you had before. And in the fourth level, the birds and bats and all the stuff that comes after you, it's like they're like homing pigeons, and you're the guy that are heading right towards you, and they're real tough. That level's super hard, and it's I don't play up on the fourth level. I never play there unless just for this review. I just look over it. It's just too tough. So that's pretty much the game. You repeatedly rescue Smurfette, and then the game starts over. When you play the game, there are 2 pieces of background music that play. I will say every time you switch screens, they start over, and you want to murder someone.
You do.
And I'm sure you noticed this when you played it. And I'm sure you're familiar with these pieces. They're pretty common. I didn't know the names of them. The 2 musical tracks are a track called Simple Gifts, right? And Beethoven's 6th Symphony, the first movement, boat, according to this, Pastoral, which is another popular piece of music. And they're done pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, this ain't going to win any awards for music, but
right.
I mean,
but compared to what the Atari system, the 2600 could output, this is multi-channel sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, switching screens with the music changing, that is it is one of the most annoying parts of the game, and often I'll play this game with the sound turned off, because with the exception of the sound of the music and the sound of your guy jumping, that's pretty much about all you hear. There's not much else going on. This has 2-player, like I mentioned, and 2 players can play at any level, but it doesn't have like simultaneous play or anything like that. This game, as I mentioned before, when the Coleco was being made, as it went on, they had planned this Expansion 3, and they had made a couple games for Expansion 3. This was going to be the memory expansion and whatnot before the Atom came along, and one of the games was going to be Super Smurf Rescue in Gargamel's Castle. Now, I don't know how far along this was developed, but I couldn't find any screenshots or video of it, so it may not have gotten very far. It may just be something that no longer is available to see. I did find a wacky thing, and I'll put the link up. There's a someone took the Smurf game, the Coleco version, and they added. There's another Smurf thing for the ColecoVision that's like a Smurf painting program, right? It was also released. So he took elements of that program. He took elements of Smurf Rescue, and made a new game called Day of the Purple Smurfs. Have you heard of this?
Only when you shared it with
I
us.
just found out about this a couple days ago, and it's actually a lot of fun. I actually like it quite a bit more than this. It's basically the same game, but what the guy's done was, and I believe this is an episode where these Smurfs got infected and they sort of like became zombies. And in this version, it's that you're doing the exact same thing, except you've got these zombie Smurfs after you, and there are more critters to avoid. They've enhanced it. Plus, in this version, unlike the real version, Gargamel actually appears in it. In the old version, there's no Gargamel at all. So you see his castle, but he's not to be seen. This game was pretty well received at the time it was released, which is, and I'll get to why that's sort of funny. Creative Computing Video and Arcade Games in '83 said that this was a truly good, fun game. They said that the kids loved it, and this guy lamented that he had to run the neighborhood kids out of his house so he could have a couple goes at it before he went to bed. So it was pretty popular. It was also given an award at the 4th Annual ARG Awards. It was given the Best Video Game Audio-Visual Effects Award.
The ARG Award?
The ARGs.
How do you spell that?
ARKIE.
Just like it sounds.
Now, to put this in perspective, when I saw this game, I really, really was blown away by the graphics. Again, you've got to consider this was 82, 83. And honestly, a lot of people like myself, it's like, man, this is like watching the cartoon. It was, I mean, standards have changed, clearly, but it looked great.
Sure.
And even today,
I think it still looks very good.
It's a sharp-looking game, and it plays well. Now, it has things I don't like. I don't like the way you jump in this is sort of you jump, and if you jump a little, he jumps a little. If you hit the jump thing twice, he'll go higher. And you have to do that to hit the bigger things. The jumping is not very intuitive in this.
No.
I didn't find. Did you?
This is a problem with a lot of early games that try to have you go up for a jump. You can't. Your Smurf doesn't really have a lot of momentum that can carry you through the jump, and it's very frustrating because you don't get multiple chances. You have to start over at the screen before. They do give you a generous amount of lives. They give you 5 lives to start, but the game is literally based around the jumping mechanic because it's the only action you can perform as a Smurf. And when it's not dead on, I can understand at the time that you probably would have played this a lot, but I didn't stick with it for very long because I couldn't get a handle on the jumping. This
is one of those guilty pleasure games. I'm not going to lie to you. Even back the very first time I played it, I thought the jumping mechanics were crap. I don't think there's any momentum. I don't think it matters. And something else that irritates me is that, like, there are some scenes where if you have to jump and your guy sort of soars off screen in the cave, and he'll fall like as far as he is tall,
and takes no damage. Yeah.
But if he walks off a little tiny hill, he gets hurt. And I should mention that when this guy falls down, it's sort of comical. He just sort of tips over and hits his clunk.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's dead or stunned, but it hasn't aged great in terms of the gameplay, but this game was sort of like the Shadow of the Beast of its time.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
It's a beautiful game that is a little light on the gameplay. Now I'm a sucker for like jumping games, and so it appealed to me. And it still does. I'm not going to lie when I tell you I played the new version about 1 million, and it's basically the exact same game with some upgrades. But I mean, I played it 1 million times. I thought it was great. I played the original tons and tons of times this week, just to reacquaint myself with it, but it was almost like I hadn't forgotten anything. Nothing popped up that was different. The Atari version, as ugly as it is much better to control and probably more fun, truth be told. This does have a couple wacky Easter eggs. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about them. The most famous one is the naked Smurfette. Have you heard about this?
No.
If you come on the screen where Smurfette's at, if you go on and off the screen real quick, eventually, if you do it right, you'll come on the screen and her dress will be missing. Now, are you going to see any naughty bits? No. In fact, not only does her dress go away, but the whites of her eyes leave as well. So if that's your hot button, enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's wacky. And then there's another thing, And I've read a bunch of people talk about this, and they said they couldn't do it, and I haven't ever done it, but I've read it, so I mean, it could be true. There's in one of the forest areas, if you come back and forth off of it, some initials will appear. They're programming initials, presumably, and if you touch them, you'll get a lot of points. But I couldn't get it to work, and I've read other people say they never could get it to work either. So who knows? You know how these things are. So I looked this up on eBay, and it's one thing I like when we cover classic console stuff, like the real classic stuff. It's like it's stuff's so easy to pick up. It's super cheap, and Smurf is no exception. When you could pick up this game boxed with the instructions and everything for under $17, and you could pick up the loose cards for under $7 or $8.
Yeah, basically the cost of shipping.
Easy as pie. I think, especially if you got kids. I know now Luke, my son Luke, when we played this, he got kind of frustrated because of the controls, and he's used to. This guy plays Mario and stuff, so this ain't Mario. It ain't gonna jump like Mario, but I thought it was cute. I will say that in recent years, this game has appeared on many worst games of all times lists. Not as number one, but down there. I think that is a little heavy-handed. I don't think the game's nearly that bad. I think it's fun with a butt, And
that's my nickname.
Fun. I don't even want to know. I thought it was the Southern Dandy. So I recommend it if you can get past the controls. And let's face facts, the Coleco controller doesn't do it any favors.
Yeah.
So hey, if you've got a good emulator somewhere you want to give it a whirl, you might be better served using some of your own.
And I actually think this game is easier to control with the cursor. I mean, with the arrow keys on your computer than a regular joystick. There's just something about being able to hit up at just the right time and make it register just right.
Yeah, I agree. Something also I wanted to mention. This almost went past me. Aside from the 2600 version of this was planned on having a release by Coleco on the Intellivision, which I'd never known. But there were legal reasons that they couldn't release it, and so it was converted into a game I've never heard of. I was going to ask you if you've heard of it. It was converted and released into a game called Sydney Hunter and the Shrines of Peril. Have you ever heard of that?
Never.
So if you're an Intellivision fan and you are looking for something wacky, give that one a shot, because who knows what that looks like or is, but I'm going to look into it. Anyway, there's Smurf for you. So let's move along, Boat, shall we? What do you got for us
All right.
week?
Well, my game this week was Ladybug. Ladybug is one of the many arcade conversions that graced the ColecoVision. The ColecoVision advertised itself as the arcade quality game console, and in many ways it was. Ladybug was released originally in the arcade in 1981, and the ColecoVision version followed soon after in 1982. Ladybug was also ported to the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision, but that's it. It got no other ports.
I didn't even know it had an Intellivision port. I'm surprised.
And so it's sort of stunning that to me that the game didn't receive ports to any of the computer systems. But anyway, it was programmed by a guy named Katsuyoshi Ueda from Japan, and he worked on the Bonk's Adventure series.
Really?
Yeah.
So now he did the arcade game?
Yeah, yeah. Just like you said, I couldn't find any information on the development of the ColecoVision port. So, Ladybug, what is it? Ladybug is a top-down maze game, much in the Pac-Man vein. You have a controlled character that runs around the maze, while there are bad characters that chase you around, and if they touch you, you die. But there are elements of other arcade games like Lock and Chase and Mousetrap that incorporate themselves in the form of gates. So in the maze, you actually can control the walls of the gates to some extent by spinning them around like a turnstile. So it's pretty cool because you can isolate the enemies. You know, if they're chasing you, you can run behind a gate, push the gate the other direction, and they can't get you. It's kind of neat. So in the maze, you have what I actually didn't know this until I started reading about it. The X's, which are like the power pellets or the regular pellets in the Pac-Man games, they're actually supposed to be flowers. Yeah, and so you've got all of these flowers to pick up, and once you pick up all of the flowers, the level goes on to the next level. But in addition to that, you have hearts. And hearts you're able to pick up the hearts, and you're also able to pick up letters that are scattered about the level. So those are the board elements. And then the final element are the skulls. And the skulls will kill you, but they also kill your enemies. I love games that have sort of, I don't know what you call it, reverse friendly fire, where the computer generates elements that hurt the computer players. Not a lot of games do that, but Ladybug does.
I love it when they have them and hate it when the stuff doesn't work on it. It always makes me mad.
Yeah, me too, me too. And so, like I said, the object is to basically run around the maze and pick up these things. Now, what makes the game unique and special, and to me more fun than a game like Pac-Man, is that there's a timer that runs around the circumference of the board. It kind of looks like a score, like in a board game. It's a segmented timer, and as it runs around, the letters and the heart icons will change color, and they do different things depending on the color when you pick them up. So, for example, if you pick up a blue heart, it acts as a multiplier. So if you pick up all 3 blue hearts, you get 5 times the score that you normally would. The yellow hearts and red hearts don't give you a score multiplier, but they give you more points. There are letters that show up, and if you collect them when they are under the right circumstances, they will show up in the upper right corner of the score as, it's sort of like in Mr. Do. These are both universal games,
yes.
And so they're using the same kinds of things. You can spell out special, and you can spell out extra. I love it when arcade ports add things to enhance the experience beyond what they give you in the arcade, and this is one of those games. So in the original Ladybug, when you spell out extra, it gives you an extra life. In the ColecoVision, it gives you the same thing. In the arcade machine, if you spell out special, which is very, very hard to do, it gives you a full extra game. In the ColecoVision version, that's a tough thing to say, yeah. Instead of giving you a free game, which would be pointless, it takes you to a special bonus stage called, get ready for this, Vegetable Harvest. Okay, now I didn't mention vegetables when I was talking about the board elements earlier, so I guess I should do that. They are sort of equivalent to the fruit in Pac-Man, where they will appear once all of the enemies leave the center square. There will be a piece of fruit that appears there, and you can pick it up for bonus points. Well, and during the vegetable harvest, it's nothing but vegetables. You're running through, you're picking up vegetables left and right and scoring major points. However, this is something that is almost impossible to do. I tried very hard to do it as I was playing, and I could never do it. I had to look it up on YouTube, and it looks awesome. It's just vegetables all over the screen. You're picking them up. It's all kinds of points. So, that is really the nuts and bolts of Ladybug. When you hit a skull, or if you hit an enemy, you die, you lose your multiplier, but you don't lose the letters that you've spelled out. So you still get to save some of your progress. There are no offensive weapons in this game. There's no flashing power pellet that will allow you to attack the ghosts. You don't have a ball like in Mr. Do. It's all about evading those insects. The insects are also mega aggressive too. They don't mess around. They'll come at you. So it's a challenging game. The things that I like that I like the way the gates open and shut. When you feel like you're being chased down and closing that gate right behind you so the enemy can't get you, and then they go around the corner and hit a skull and die. It's very rewarding. I love that. I also like the fact that you can actually run around a good bit at the beginning of the stage before the enemies come out, so you can kind of make your strategy, before you feel immediately under attack. And I also like that there's multiple strategies with scoring. This is very similar to Mr. Do in that you can choose to, just go right for, getting the next board, getting the vegetables, or do you want to concentrate on getting the blue hearts, maxing out the multiplier, which is really the best strategy, and then getting the rest of the stuff. So multiple strategies is a great thing. The things I don't like about the game, I wish that there was background music. I understand why there's not. In 1981, background music, even in arcade machines, was not a common thing. Yeah. I don't like the fact that there aren't intermissions between the levels. Pac-Man had that. This is, it's a Pac-Man clone. It's sort of the high level. I wish that they would have, come up with some cool things. And then finally, the thing that I don't like at all is the art on the arcade machine and on the box. They didn't go with a cutesy look for this game. They went for sort of humanoid characters that are drawn they're sort of ladybug / human or insect. They're more like, it's like butterfly / human things that are all over it. They're weird looking.
They're disturbing. Yeah, be a better way to put it.
Yeah, and so I love Universal Arcade cabinets in general. I love the way they have a unique look to them, the way that they kind of come out in the middle. But I would never own this machine because it's far too creepy looking. Speaking of the arcade version, it wasn't a huge hit. It did modestly well, but it didn't really knock anybody's socks off. However, it was a much bigger hit on the ColecoVision. This was actually one of the top-selling titles on the ColecoVision when it was released. And so when people remember Ladybug, most of the time they remember playing it on the ColecoVision rather than seeing it in the arcade. There was a clone of Ladybug. Oh, before we go on to the clones, why don't you tell me what did you think about Ladybug?
Well, of course, I'd played this in the arcade, and I agree with you. First of all, on the art, I like the marquee. I like the font and everything.
That looks cool. Yeah, I do like that too.
It's real creepy. I'm going to give a disclaimer before I get into this. I love Universal stuff. Yeah. I'm a big Mr. Do, famous Dude's Castle. I love them all. I hated this game.
Really?
I never liked it. I never liked it in the arcade, and I never liked them. Now, disclaimer. It's a great port. I mean, it really is. I mean, in fact, like you said, most people consider it superior to the arcade version in every way. I didn't like Lock and Chase. I didn't like any of those games.
But you do like Super Pac-Man.
There's a big difference between this and that, which is you can't fight back in this. I can't stand it. It's tough for me to wrap my head around. I've never been able to get a good, firm grasp on the strategy in this. I love the spelling stuff. I like that. Something else I don't like are the skulls. They ruin the flow of your collecting of the dots. Now, maybe some people like that, but if you're playing a Pac-Man game where you've got a good flow going, having those things there and you have to literally stop and alter your path, I hate it. I also hate bugs. I mean, in real life, I can't stand bugs. Also, the fruit they use in this, or the vegetables,
you're not a big vegetable guy.
It's not just
We've gone over
this. They pick some weird ones. It's like eggplants, cucumbers, and some Japanese something, and bamboo is one of them.
This is a Japanese game.
I'm just saying, they're weird. There's some weird vegetables. That's all I'm saying.
They're not weird in Japan.
Let me tell you something. Pac-Man was Japanese too. I didn't see any weird fruit in there, all right? So there you go. There's my kickback on it.
I think that they wanted to differentiate themselves from Pac-Man, this was, I can't remember if this was before. This was probably before Casey Munchkin and all that. But
it is way different than Pac-Man. Bro, I mean, this game has less to do with Pac-Man than
And I will say the fruit is more appealing visually than the vegetables are, but I think they just wanted to do something different.
The timer before the insects come out is okay. I'm down with that. But I mean, overall, moving of the gates, it seems like it would be a good idea. But to me, I can never wrap my head around a strategy to do well at this game. Maybe if I was better at it, I would enjoy it more. And full disclosure, I was not good at the arcade either. And when it came out, I had a cup of coffee with it, but I was just like, I'm just not digging it. I mean, if it's me, in terms of maze games with dots, this is probably not going to be on my list.
So you would rather play Pac-Man any day than Ladybug?
I would much rather play, like you mentioned, Casey Munchkin, which I think that's a game that doesn't get enough love. I mean, it's very creative in its own way because the dots move and the maze moves around a little bit. But that much said, just because I don't like it personally, I'm not going to badmouth it as a programming job or as a conversion to the Coleco because it's a top shelf job. Like you said, adding which I never came close to getting to the special harvest. But adding, I love stuff where you pick up letters, and I'm just like you. I love stuff that spells stuff out. I think that's cool. There's a wide array of insects in this. I had to read it to see what all you could get to. So that's kind of neat. There's not just like ghosts. There's a bunch of different stuff that come after you. They're super aggressive. I found this a super tough game. I mean, it was just really hard, and I couldn't get any traction on it.
It is not easy, and I'll tell you who is pretty good at this game is your brother.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he came over.
He's good at a lot of crap.
He came over and put up a high score on my MAME cabinet that I haven't come close to beating. So
yeah, it's definitely a win. And I know it's funny because I looked through my collection to bring games over, and I had Smurf, but I looked and I don't have Ladybug.
Oh.
Everyone has Ladybug. Everyone has it. Let me guess. You've got Ladybug?
I'm getting it.
I knew it. The fact that you play a Ladybug, I never liked the Ladybugs either, just the bugs themselves. Those things, around these parts here in West by God, Virginia, these things will get in your house, and they'll get in your curtains and stuff, and they reproduce like they're going out of
they're
style.
not the friendly red ladybugs that you see on TV.
Well, they're red.
No, these are like orange and black.
Yeah,
They're
and also if
looking.
you crush one, they stink.
Yeah.
You know, and when you try to just suck them into the, you try to get them out of there, as best you can. But here, put it in here. There you go. Cool. Put in the Atari port. There you go. There you go. That's realistic, right?
There we go.
So, I mean, that's just being silly, but I don't like ladybugs, I don't like bugs, and I just couldn't get behind the game. So, sorry, Boat.
I understand. Well, okay, so now we're going back to the clone that was released. There was a clone called Bumblebee that just replaced the main character with a bumblebee and the enemies with spiders, and that was released in 1983 for the BBC Micro, the Acorn Electron, which I thought was the same computer, and the Commodore 64. So this game did have somewhat of a computer release, although it was in clone form.
It's amazing that this never got released in like full on the C64.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or one of the Atari computer 8-bit lines. That's stunning. I mean, because it was a staple of the ColecoVision. I'm surprised it didn't get ported very much.
Right, and it's also a game that has never had a revival. Like, it didn't get a game like Neo Mr. Do or something like that. It's never been brought back in any way. And so this is a game that I would love it if they would bring out, like a Pac-Man Championship Edition or something like that, a new spin on Ladybug. But so far, no good.
Well, keep holding out, Boat.
However, this game has been released as recently as 2006. In 1982, there was a catalog that Atari put out saying that Ladybug was coming, but it never came. It never came.
Oh,
and so we had to wait until 2006 for a man named John Champeau to program a port of Ladybug for the 2600. The cart is available for purchase to this day for $25. On the Atari Age store, which is not bad for a cart and a manual, and the ROM is freely available to download. So if you want to try this out on the 2600, you have a way to do that.
I bet the 2600 could pull us off fairly faithfully.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you're not going to get...
I was just thinking about Pac-Man, and I was just like, I don't know.
Well, you have to realize that the people that are putting out 2600 games now know how to program for the system. They have much more time.
Yeah,
like
right.
the Pac-Man Arcade Edition for the 2600 that got released not long ago is pretty great. And even Miss Pac-Man for the 2600 was pretty good.
Yeah, you're right.
So I haven't checked it out, but I probably will next time I fire up the 2600. On eBay, the cart for this, you can get a loose cart for pretty much the price of shipping, or maybe a little bit more, just like Smurf. It's not an expensive cart,
they must
$5 or $10.
sold a million of these things,
you can get one box. One sold for about $35, including shipping.
Really, I'm surprised.
So
that
yeah,
high.
a little bit high. The arcade machine, I couldn't find any auctions of the arcade machine that have ended recently, but the PCB has sold recently for $150. So it's sort of a valuable PCB to have around.
It's funny, for all my arcade travels over the years, I don't know if I've ever been to anyone's home arcade or seen one for sale anywhere.
I think I saw Ladybug at the auction that I went to when I bought the Mario Brothers in Tennessee. But I was so put off, and at that point I'd played the game, but at that point I was so put off by the artwork. I was just like, oh.
You know what I would guess? That being a universal cab, people are probably yanking Ladybug right out of there and sticking in the bigger, more popular universal.
Yeah, I meant to look before the show to see if there was a universal multi-board available, because that would be a neat thing to have. I don't know if they.
I wouldn't hold your breath. I don't think there is. I've never heard of one. Plus, the games had different screen orientations, and weren't there a couple like you?
Yeah, like Newscastle was a vertical.
Right.
So yeah. All right, Aaron. Is it time?
I think it's time, Boat. You know what time it is.
It's time for the retro roulettes. So we're going to bring it out. There it is in all its glory.
With your exchange. This is like the baton in one of those races. You've got
right.
See if you can pull it off.
So the first thing we need to do is bring down the new pie pieces, which I thought I did, but I haven't. So this will of course be edited out.
I feel an edit coming on. You in the chat room, yes, you. It could be your choice if you are paying attention. Take a look at this board, and if it lands on chat choice, you guys will get to choose the system we pick from. Could be anything. Boat wasn't kidding. He literally just left the whole room. I don't know what. As you guys know, our show is usually seamless. No cuts whatsoever. Perfect every time.
Well, now I'm freaking out because I can't find the baggie with the pie pieces in it. What did I do with it? Oh, they're there. It's right behind the thing.
Grabbing the baggie. Baggie grabbed.
Oh, we also need to get that out of the way so we don't have that crazy glare on the screen.
Okay, don't start back yet for a second. I need to look one thing up real quick.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. So make sure I can, okay. Easy to pull out there. How are you looking at an Amstrad game?
I just making sure I know which one I want.
All right.
I got it.
All right. Okay, folks, we are going to remove ColecoVision from the wheel, since it has been done, and replace it with the Amstrad CPC.
Can he do it?
Aaron, how much Amstrad did you play in your youth?
Hey, let me tell you something. I played never. I've never had one. I've never played a single. I mean, I don't think I've ever played more than 1 or 2 games for it.
It's a fact that it is impossible to do this.
This is my favorite part of the show right here. This is like, we need music, special music for you placement. So all that.
It was so easy to take out.
Maybe really we need if we use like a stiffer paper, would it not fit in there?
Yeah, the paper's fine. We'll just turn it around.
Edit a mania. Okay, tell me when you're ready to go.
You don't. I won't tell you anything. I'll say.
But I'd like to know.
All right, now.
Why are you difficult, bud? There's going to be a scene where I just beat you with that wheel.
Okay, here we go. We're going to spin the wheel and
make the deal. It's a good roll. And we have come up with
the Atari 7800.
Okay, well that limits our choices. Let me grab the envelopes of fun. The Atari 7800. Okay, here we go. So, next week we will be playing games on the Atari 7800 platform. Both, there's your ticket.
Thank you.
I'll let you pick first this week.
All right. We will be playing, for me, Ninja Golf.
Ninja Golf. I've heard a lot about that game. I am going to pick Asteroids, the Atari Classic. So next week, Asteroids, Ninja Golf. Should be a good time, Bode. What do you think?
I can't wait.
Beautiful. So tune in same time, same channel next week when we play Atari 7800 games. And until then, adios.
All right.
I know you're excited about that.
Atari 7800? Why would I not be? So check these out. Got some heavy hitters
Sega
coming
CD.
up on the wheel.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Mega Drive.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, man.
I have a grand old time making these.
How do you think that went?
I think it went pretty well.
I could have done a whole show technically breaking down this wacky contraption. We could have done one just on the like the atom and all the crazy stuff that went on. Ah, someone's down with Ninja Golf. Beautiful. Ninja Goth. Even better. That should be a game. G-O-T-H.
Let's see.
I'm going to move your Coleco to the table.
Okay. So yeah,
Hey,
chat.
you've got a 7800 too, so I don't have to bring it over next week either. It's all coming together, Bo.
Yeah, unfortunately, the chat choice did not spin up, but
sorry, chat.
Yeah, maybe next time.
While you were out of the room, I was pitching it heavily. I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be coming up for sure.
Thanks for. Oh yeah, I should have advertised that we taped this live. Turn around for me. Your pants are totally split all the way down.
You're kidding me.
No.
Oh shit. I thought I got them hung on something over there. I guess I did.
Yeah.
Shit. That sucks, dude.
That's.
This is my good pair. This is one of my better pairs of pants. They're not even tight. They're totally.
Oh yeah,
loose.
yeah. At first I thought it was some sort of weird,
on?
and I thought it was some sort of weird fashion thing at
rip?
first. No. What would they have got a caught on over here?
No.
Maybe it's been like that all day.
No.
The chat is highly amused that you've accomplished this.
Thank you. The legend continues.
You want to spin around and show the crowd?
Absolutely not. Goodbye, Smurf. Were you actually surprised?
See, there it is, folks. Bam.
Were you surprised I didn't like Ladybug?
Yeah, I thought. Actually, dim in my mind, I seem to remember that you said that you didn't like it at some point in the past.
True.
I need to get my.
Thank you.
I need to get. Let's see. I need to get all kinds of things ready.
This is why I drink right here. What in God's name I got caught? I might get caught in the car.
I don't know because it's
That's
like
huge.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
and it's right along the seam.
Yeah, maybe the seam just gave out on.
Well, it's not that. It's not like it's holding that much. I don't have any butt.
I know, but I mean, like maybe it was just like maybe there was like a loose thread or I don't know.
Jeez, man, that sucks.
I've never had jeans like split like that.
I doubt you're shopping at the same tailor that I am, Bo.
Well, I do only buy, the highest of high-end jeans.
Okay. Do you have anything aside from the usual on this? Do we have any feedback or anything?
No.
Probably be a quick episode then.
I guess we should say hi to everybody here. Hey, Brutal. Hey, Kate. Eric.
Brutal, I'm glad you're in here, man, since I haven't seen you on chat for a while. Good job on the mailbag stuff. I know you hate when I do that, but I did it anyway. I know it just drives you nuts.
When you get into it, Bob Barker style. All right.
Please spay or neuter your Barracuda.
A ladybug probably chewed your pants. Retribution.
Oh, man. Another reason I hate this bastards.
Okay. We need to switch it over to Amigos.
You're going to forget to do that one day.
And now we realize there is not a video. There we go. And make sure, let's see, bring up all the web pages.
This was a slow news week.
Yeah. Don't ask me if I've seen anything because I haven't seen anything.
Have you seen anything?
Nope. I guess you can ask me, but I'll just say no.
I mean, news-wise?
Yeah, I haven't. I didn't look at the G Plus page this past week. I forgot about it.
That's stunning. I love me with the mohawk.
I'm glad you like that.
How's that show doing this week? We get any love?
Yeah, all kinds.
How'd the last one do? We do okay on that one? Did we hit 100 on it?
For Volume 3? Volume 3's only been up a couple days.
Volume 2.
Probably.
You don't have to look. I mean, I believe it.
Let's see.
We did so well with the first one.
There's one. Yeah, 132.
Okay. Oh, that's not too bad then, eh? should I go with the mohawk?
I think that you should. I think you should be totally. It would be so easy for you to find a mohawk and just use like super glue and affix it to your head permanently.
I'm sure they have some skin-safe
Yeah,
glue.
right, like some sort of skin-safe glue.
Super glue? What are you going to do that's going to be wacky?
I already have wacky hair.
Well,
I don't need to do anything. I have a reverse mohawk.
You do have. I mean, you're holding on though.
Yeah.
Everybody hasn't changed since I met you.
I know. I know. It's.
Your hair is the damnedest thing.
I'm hoping that that at some point it'll start to fall out more, and then
you're hoping that, are you?
And then because it really is, it's sort of stuck in this weird middle zone. But what I do is sometimes I take a styling brush and just sort of poof it up a little bit, make it look nice.
You are kidding, aren't you?
Yeah. Man.
You kidding me?
All right.
Can't all look as dapper as me with my jet black beard, ripped pants.
You know, I was looking at some of the older episodes, or maybe I was looking at some old photos of you. And back when you had the old, why did you stop getting the huge glasses? Because I feel like that was a good look for you.
You mean the round rim job?
Like the ones that, yeah.
Sorry, I tickled myself. You want the truth, or do you want a cunning?
No, I want the truth. Do they just not make them anymore?
I bought some. I had some glasses. I had them since high school. Okay, that's how long I had them. And I finally, they were so beat down and broke, I'd had to resolder them like a million times. And so I was like, it's time to get new glasses. So this group was starting on the internet, and they were like, listen, you can get glasses here. All you do is send us your prescription, you get the glasses, we'll give it to you for free plus shipping as an introduction.
Right.
Like, okay. So I ordered a pair, and then I ordered this pair through another person's name. So I doubled up on the freebies, all right? And so I thought these are pretty weird glasses, but I'm going to get them just because they're going to be a backup. And I got them. And I liked them, but like most people thought they sucked. So I was like, no, I'll just stick these in a box, all right? Well, my other pair, I wore them and they're round. I think I've worn them on the show at least once. And but they got scratched and beat down. And so one day I was like, well, heck, I've got this other pair I've never worn hardly at all. So I broke them out. And I remember these are very polarizing glasses. So like I've had tons of people,
Hillary Clinton polarized?
That's right. Some people
I thought you meant like polarized lenses.
No, some people love them. They're like, man, those are. I mean, I've had people compliment me all the time on the frames. And then I've got people that think they suck.
You know what it reminds me of are the lattices in Kung Fu Master that are in the background.
That's what they're based on. And did you ever watch a stupid show called, what was it called? It's a show where these guys go and buy stuff out of these storage areas, storage wars.
Right?
Storage wars. There's a goof on there that has similar glasses. And I was watching an episode of that when I ordered these. I was like, I kind of like those. And so that's basically where they came from. But for years and years, I wore nothing but tie-dyes and round rim glasses like a big bald hippie. I don't have any new tie-dyes. I just haven't worn the glass. I'm due for a new pair, so maybe the next time I'll get those. But yeah, that's the story of my glasses. Pretty riveting.
How's the Kentucky insurance on glasses? Do you get one free pair every couple years?
They give us no, hey, you think the teachers are in trouble. We don't get any eye at all.
Really? No eye?
No. So it's all up to me. And my cheapery is well noted, especially with all the recent mega expenses.
I don't think you need to, I mean, your glasses don't look like they're in need of
It's not the glasses per se, it's the blindness.
Oh, okay. Your prescription needs updating.
Yes, the blindness is starting to affect me in an adverse way.
Okay.
For example, I thought this was a small dog until I got up closer. I'm like, okay, that's my phone.
All right.
I hope that spells it out for you. Thanks, Brutal.
A Keith Flint double
I take back
mohawk.
my thanks.
Do you know who Keith Flint is?
I don't, but I know what a double mohawk is.
I'm looking it up right now. Keith Flint.
Road Warrior Hawk had a double mohawk.
Look at this guy. He looks like one of your guys from the Church of Satan there.
He looks like a reverse Vivian from Young Ones. You watch that show.
Yeah. I wonder he's from the Prodigy. I
hate that band. So there you go.
I thought you liked that kind of music.
I'm your boss starter. I hate that song so much. So much. No, I'm not a fan.
All right. Okay. So
I did have, I've been bald for a long time, but I had the long hair, right? One time for Halloween, I spiked this stuff straight up. I was trying to pull off a Wolverine, Wolverine's not bald. I look sort of like a very pale Batman.
I can't even imagine. I've never seen like spiking a mullet up.
Well, it ended up drooping quite a bit out, so it looked like Krusty the Clown or something. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a good look.
Were you dressed up as Wolverine otherwise?
No. And you ever seen Steve Martin with the old arrow through the head routine? It was a lot like if I had a hair arrow stuck through there. A hair arrow.
That's an awesome band name, Hair Arrow.
You can use that, Boat.
Thank you. Henrik saw Prodigy live in '98 or '99.
Oh, Henrik. Have you grown since then, sir? I can't imagine. I've never heard a single other song from them. So they may be the best band ever with one god-awful song.
I thought they had multiple songs.
No. As soon as I heard the word Prodigy, I was flipping the channel. So they could have had the greatest love ballad of all time, and I wouldn't know about it.
They wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart.
I'm your fire starter. Like that, like an R&B sort of thing.
Maybe I could do that for one of the Patreon songs.
I want to hear you sing the Patreon names to this fire starter song.
but as a love ballad.
No. I mean the actual one. Because if you made a love ballad, I don't know what you were doing. You'd have to sing the song to make that work.
That's true. All right.
What are we doing? Was that the pre-show?
That was the pre-show.
This is going to be a disaster, and I can feel it in my bones.
What are we playing? Typhoon Thompson, right?
I keep saying Typhoon Thomas. I've said it 100 times this week. I'm glad I don't have to do anything on this show except just sit here and make crude comments. I'm good at that.
Okay. All right.
I'm not ready.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm ready. I had to get some liquid courage in me.
Okay.
It's weird to work before in front of an audience.
We do it every single week.
I know, but I never really thought of it that way. You know, they could be right out here.
Yeah.
Can you imagine doing this live? Like, you know how these podcasts, the bigger ones, they go up and they go on stage and they put out a gimmick. It's like, here we are, a live show.
We could definitely do that.
And then my pants would rip. I'd make fun of my hair.
People would talk about it for the rest of their lives.
Well, that's what I want. That's the kind of press I want. When I move on from this show to go on and be a big star somewhere, I don't want that.
Korg I don't think they're big enough to do the live podcast stick, but like VCF, like the Venice Computer Festival, they always got panels and stuff going on down there. We were invited to go last year.
Yeah, we weren't going to be on a panel.
Yeah,
we would have been on a panel.
We would have.
What would they have asked us, Boat? Can you imagine that?
People are dying to know the real Aaron Dowdy.
They know me. This is me.
They don't believe it.
What?
They want to see the man behind the mask.
It's true. I am the whole pants wearing, booze drinking guy with a dark beard. You know what? My buddy says I walked in the store today to the lab. He looked at me and goes, "Did you dye your beard?" I was like, "Well, obviously."
It doesn't just go from gray to.
I was like, "What a scumbag!"
What is the color of that? Like on the box? What do they say?
Black.
Just black.
But I mean. See, clearly you've never dyed anything.
No.
And I'll tell you something. I'm not a vain man. I know this is stunning. But when you've got no hair, it's a real bummer. You can't do anything. Like when I had hair, I could do stuff to it.
Yeah.
And so occasionally I'll get bored. And when I get bored, I usually come up with like a Robin Hood mustache and beard or some sort of idiocy or big chops. You've seen my various things. And Tree and Luke weren't home last night. And I was sitting there. I was like, man, I'm going to dye my beard. And I was like, I'm going to leave this dye in for 3 times as long as they say to. Screw it. I'm going to see what happens. And that's what I did.
It doesn't look bad.
It's super black.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel
it should last longer, right?
I feel more evil than I was. And I was sort of evil to begin with. So.
I think you should go red next time.
I almost did. I had this stuff in my hand.
Because, I mean, nobody would know because you don't have any hair.
Well, everyone that knows me would think I was some kind of, but then again,
see, you don't even need to finish the sentence.
Secret's out, isn't it? I thought about getting a sweater vest and just kind of following your lead.
Could you imagine? I mean, it would be the amount of attention you get from the opposite sex would you would be
sweater vest?
Yeah,
is that what happened in Thailand? You put that thing on and
walk
outside.
That's how I snag deep.
Man,
you've been doing it wrong this whole time.
I get plenty of attention from the opposite sex.
Okay. Just imagine what would happen if you wore a sweater vest.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about Teresa, and it's not necessarily the attention you want.
Have you ever owned a sweater vest?
Let me tell you, I've got something worse. You ever seen those faux turtlenecks?
You mean like the ones that Steve Jobs used to wear all the time?
No, I mean the ones where it's just at the turtleneck from here, but it just slips into your shirt, and really there's no actual sweater involved.
Oh,
I got one of those. I had one. I don't know if I
That's
do.
pretty crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. Do they still make those?
I don't know.
Because it makes it look like you're a sophisticated up-and-comer or like a teacher.
It's sort of like a tuxedo T-shirt, you know? It's the same sort of thing.
It's worse because you can't wear this as a piece of clothing.
That's true.
If you took the shirt off, you just look like a complete idiot. You'd have a turtleneck and there'd be nothing else.
That sounds like a Halloween costume.
That sounds like something for Chippendale. You know, they've got a little bow tie with no shirt. You can just wear the turtleneck. That's like Chippendales for fat losers. It's like literally it's the exact opposite. They pay you to come in and watch us dance. That's what happens.
I'm seriously surprised that no like SNL or anybody has ever done a bit with the fake turtleneck thing in Chippendales. That
I'm
seems
assuming
like
they
right
still
for
make those. They don't. I mean, you ever?
I've never seen one of those before, but I know what you're talking about.
You guess what you're getting for Christmas, buddy?
That's what I'm going to wear for Halloween next year.
Because you can't make a fake sweater vest.
It would be difficult.
Because you wear that over. You could make a fake one of these. You know, it's a button-up shirt.
Yeah.
But that'd look. You'd have to have sleeves and stuff. How would you keep it on? I think we got something new for Amigos store. Amigos fake sweater vest.
Fake sweater vest.
We're off the rails here.
All right, it's time to start the show.
Oh, I thought that was a show. By the way, is it just me or is the camera crooked? I noticed this on the last show. Does it feel crooked to you or is it just me?
If you want to fix it, go right ahead.
No, I'm just asking. It
looks okay to me.
Okay. Ask the chat. See, I'm maybe nuts. I could be completely nuts.
Because look, I mean, you're straight up and down.
Maybe you're just crooked, like in general.
Yeah.
Okay, that would explain it.
All right, I'll...
No, you don't have to get up.
No, it's too late.
Did you ask the chat?
I know.
What now? Now I've cast aspersions on your camera work.
Yes.
It is crooked, isn't it?
Well, okay, I'm gonna fix it, or I'm gonna change it, and you tell me if it looks better.
All right. That's too far. That's about right. Yeah.
Okay, so that was like less than a millimeter.
What? That's all it takes, dude.
The chat was clearly complaining about it since day one.
Were they?
No.
Oh, damn it. Well, don't build me up. You're a mean girl whenever things go south. That's for darn sure.
I don't take criticism well.
There wasn't even criticism.
I'm the first to admit it. Right. You can see how. Can you imagine if you actually criticized me when I did?
Man.
I'd explode.
What if I badmouth your watch, for example?
Yeah.
Is that when you just whack me with it, like Wonder Woman style?
Yeah, just flying kick to the face.
All right. What are you stalling for? Can we get this thing going, please?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
I'm just kidding.
Whoosh. This is going to be the last show.
134.
I'm going to strangle you with my pants right here at the end of the show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to talk about Typhoon Thompson.
In Search for the Sea Child.
Yeah. Defender of the Universe, recording agency. You know what I'm doing?
I have no idea. I think it was sort of aneurysm.
If you hear any noise, it's just me and the boys. You're not a big Parliament guy, are you?
I know that song, but I mean, what's that to do with Typhoon Thompson?
Well, you said the Sea Child?
Yeah.
I was singing Star Child.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Thank you.
Very clever, Boat. That's why you're making the big bucks, pal.
But before we get into Typhoon Thompson and George Clinton,
yeah,
we're going to do some Amiga news.
That would have spiced the game up considerably, if you think about it.
It would have been great to have Bootsy Collins descend from the heavens.
Maybe he's driving the ship. That would make a lot of sense.
It would.
I can't imagine George driving it.
No.
So let me get the Gambletron out here. Now, we were a little light on the news this week, but we'll have a quick look here. You know, we talked about Rough and Tumble last week. Do you remember that, Boat?
Yeah.
We thought that was a pretty good little game. So some fellow named John Schaller shared this link on Rad Rogers World 1 on Steam. Now, this is now, have you looked into this at all?
So this is probably the closest thing to like a spiritual successor to Rough and Tumble that has ever existed. If you're watching the video version of this, you are seeing this is a little kid with a huge gun, and it's a 3D platformer sort of thing, and it just looks. I haven't played it, but it looks pretty neat. I actually don't think it looks bad, and
It actually looks really awesome.
Yeah, that's what it is. So
now, as I recall, I think the Brain Trust was talking about this, and they said that there were none of the people that did on the original had anything to do with it.
Right. They're just taking that aesthetic. And hat tip to Paul Harrington, I believe. For sending me that link, because that's a really cool looking game.
Paul's in the know.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. So that might be cool if you're on Steam. Feel froggy, have a look. Now, this is something that Chris Fox, I just love it, sent in. And I'm telling you, I've looked in this a little bit. I'm going to have a good hard look. Better Workbench 4.3 or Better WB 4.3 was released. It's a more slimline approach to the Amiga workbenches. Now, this is more a utility than I would normally cover, but hey, I'm always looking for something to hey, listen, I love Amiga workbench as much as more than the next guy, but there's always room for improvement. You know what I'm saying? It's been a few years. So I've had a small look at this. It looks pretty sharp, and anything that's getting regularly updated is good by me. So if you feel like giving this a whirl, we've got it linked up into Google Plus, and if you do have a look at it or you're running it, let us know what you think. I'd be kind of interested to know what's going on. So our good and dear friend Brutal Barracuda sent over a couple links. The first one here, we're going to look at this. It's an Oliver Twins joint. Dara O'Brien's Go 8-bit. Now, have you had a look at this?
Oh!
And there it is. It's a video. Oh my gosh, the sound flew off the charts there. What are we looking at here, Boat? Quick Snack segment. Oh gosh, this is recent too. Let's see if we get to the Oliver Twins. We're looking through the video right now. You know, that guy looks awful familiar. Do you know who that is, Boat?
No.
Now, this Quick Snacks, of course, we are familiar with this. This is a sort of a Dizzy puzzle game. Have you remember playing this? I've played it in the past.
I remember seeing it on one of an Amiga compilation. Go. Yeah.
Now, wow, dignified as ever. So I didn't like this game that much, to be completely honest with you. But you know, hey, people love the Dizzy stuff. So if you want to see, gosh, some
antics.
I don't know what to say. Humiliating antics displayed. The Oliver Twins. You go ahead and have a look at that. Barracuda always on the job here. That's a wacky one, man. Another one Barracuda stuck up, and this one isn't necessarily Amiga related, but it's classic gaming related. It's called Crossing Souls. It's according to Double B, it's the glory of 80s crammed into a single computer game, and this is another Steam game. When I think of glory of the 80s crammed into a computer game, I think of the retro. What was that called on the
Retro
NES?
City Rampage?
Retro City Rampage, which is a tremendous game. Although this, I'll have to say, as we look at this video, it looks enticing.
Yeah, it really looks cool.
And it looks well done. It's neat to see. You know, we have lived long enough now that we are seeing the stuff we grew up sort of looked at in a nostalgic way. This means you've lived too long, I think. Because while part of me thinks this is awesome, part of me is disturbed. I'll go to the
No, the disturbing part is when it's the stuff that's newer than the stuff you grew up with is looked upon in a nostalgic way.
Well, yeah.
That's when it gets bad.
I mean, I go to the antique store, as you know, quite a bit. Being an antique, I have to have a card to get out of there. But I often see games and puzzles and whatnot that I owned as a kid. And it's so brutal to see that stuff.
Just wait till you see like Pokemon cards and stuff in the antique section.
Oh man, well that would be weird if they ever get old enough to do that, because people still use it all the time. But I mean, it's very, I don't want to say humbling. It's very discouraging, I guess. I mean, I'm still around. That's cool. I guess I want to be around.
Sure beats the alternative.
That's right. You sound like my buddy at work. So anyway, you can check this out. I believe it said it was coming out on the PS4. So. Might be fun. You know, Retro City Rampage is pretty cute if it's something along those lines. Another Chris Folge joint, and he shared this, but it's actually an article from our good and dear friend, super contributor, all around nice guy, Dreamcatcher, the man, the myth, the legend, has a new article out, Soldier of Misfortune. This is a gimmick where he's put together a little thing. By the way, take a drink. On Zane Deslina, Soldier of Light. Now, I've actually heard of these games, but I've not played them. Now, Bo, have you ever played any of these?
No.
Now, as we look at these stills, I think I do want to play. I don't know what's happening in these, but it looks intriguing.
Yeah, it's really weird. The size of the perspective and the size of the sprites is really strange, and yeah, looks interesting.
Yeah. Of course, Dreamcatcher, his articles are ultra in depth, as always, and with lots of good research. This looks like he's covered the entire. Of course, he stuck that in there. Looks like he's covered all the different versions of it as well. So if that's your cup of tea, you should always read his stuff anyway, because it's always good. I often find stuff in there that I never would have given two craps about, but it's so interesting. I'm like, well, I'm gonna check this out. Yeah. I found a bunch of games that way. That's pretty much all I've got for news. You got anything news-wise, Bo?
Nothing from me this week.
I guess one last small item is that, as I mentioned last week, our good and dear friend Slow Norris sent me a lovely expansion for the Amiga 600 memory expansion. I finally had a chance to stick that in, and it works great. It works 100%. So, special thanks to Slow, and a ringing endorsement for the folks over at Amiga Kit, who once again provide a nice product. They get it there on time, and with the one exception of the key raw, I've never had any trouble with Amiga Kit. I've always got my stuff in a very timely manner. So thank you, Slow, very much. I appreciate it.
I guess one more side update we have is that Brutal Barracuda has been slowly trickling out some of our classic mailbag segments.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if you're interested in reliving all the fun of us unwrapping, candy and booze and all kinds of fun stuff from overseas, go on over to the YouTube channel and check that out.
Could you believe how many of those there have been?
I know.
I couldn't. We've gotten so many of those. He's put out so many. I'm always stunned that there's another one.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Brutal does a good job on that stuff. Speaking of Brutal, Brutal was the driving force boat behind our Amigos challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a few months since we did an Amigos challenge, but I'm looking to ramp it up again. So, if you have an idea for our Amigo challenges, head over to the forums and drop us a line. There's an Amigo challenge message there. You can give us your ideas, and I'm going to look at a couple of these, and I'm hoping within the next week or two to get another one up and running, because the last one was pretty well received. So I'm ready to go again. I'm thinking again a good racing game or something, but I'm easy. So if somebody comes up with a very clever idea, we'll give it a whirl. So that's on the docket. So hopefully, sometime in the month of March, we'll kick off another Amigos challenge.
Cool. All right, Aaron, it is time for our game of the week. This week's game comes from Amigos Game Selection Committee member Blendo75. As we talked about last week, if you support Amigos with $10 or more a month support on Patreon, then you get to choose one game per month for us to play. And this week's game comes from Blendo, who is a local guy from West Virginia.
I love it.
Yeah, and so...
Get down here, Blendo.
Right, and his game is Typhoon Thompson!
Now, I will tell you, before we start this, that I had never ever heard of this game. Ever. Have you ever heard of this at all?
Me neither.
And I'm surprised. So, this is actually a pretty interesting game. And before we get into the game, this game is really the tale of 3 games. Did you know that?
No.
3 games. And so we're going to start at the beginning of this wacky tale. This is another game that has a great backstory. So, this game was created and developed by an outfit called Dan Gorlin Productions. Now, Boat, what do you know about Dan Gorlin?
Oh, I could write a book on Dan Gorlin. No, I don't know anything.
Well, listen, this is an interesting tale, and it's worth telling. So, Dan Gorlin is a guy who teaches and performs West African dance and drumming with the Alakoli West African Dance Team.
It makes sense for him to develop a hovercraft-based Amiga game.
Well, there's a story. So, when Dan was living in L.A., he worked for the Rand Corporation, which, of course, again, plays right into the dancing. And he was working on artificial intelligence. And he was there, and he took some time off, and he borrowed...
Can you imagine living that life where you work for Rand, and then you become an East African drumming ensemble leader?
Yes. So he borrowed an Apple II from his granddad, okay? And he was trying to sell his house there, so he had nothing to do. And so he sat around messing with this Apple II, okay, and learned how to program on it, because why not, right? And so he was into helicopters, okay, and so what he started doing was making a helicopter game. At first he wanted to make a 3D helicopter game, but he realized that the Apple II didn't have the jack to do a 3D helicopter game. So he made a 2D game, and he would play this helicopter game, and he had a guy come over who was working on his car. And believe it or not, this is part of it. So the guy's working, it's a kid. He's working on the guy's car, and he sees him playing this game. He goes, listen, he goes, I love Defender, right? The video arcade game. He goes, what you need to do in this game is have some dudes where your helicopter can go pick them up, you know? So Dan went over to the local laundromat, as one would do, to see what Defender was, because he didn't know what it was. And he looked at it, and he had no idea what was going on. Because if you ever played Defender, there's like 70 buttons, and it's crazy time. Like, I never was any good at Defender or Stargate.
I never knew that because I'd always played Defender on consoles or on the computer, whatever, where there's just a normal joystick and whatever. When you approach that thing in the arcade, you're immediately overwhelmed.
Well, one of the people that really like Defender like the complexity, and they realize, listen, your average arcade guy, they're not going to get anywhere near this. I mean, there are no joysticks; it's all buttons, and it's insanity. I mean, it's unbelievable. So Gorlin looked at this and he's like, well, I don't see any men, but I will take the kid's word for it. So he went back and he added dudes to his game. And he told his wife, he said, listen, because I think this is a pretty good game. I bet I can make some money on it. She's like, all right. So he contacted some dudes over at Broderbund, and lo and behold, Choplifter was born.
Really?
He's the fellow that, and everyone knows Choplifter.
Yeah.
He was the fellow that put together Choplifter. So Choplifter ended up being a big hit, and so it was time for him to work on a follow-up for it. So you'll recall that I said initially he wanted this to be a 3D game, but the Apple II didn't quite have the jack to pull it off. So, and he didn't have the knowledge of how to program a game like that too. So he started on his next title. Okay, so he started working on another title for the Apple II, and it was called Earhart, okay? Now, if you have ever seen this game when it came out, and apparently this is a pretty big deal on those computers, it is exactly the same, pretty much, as this game here. I mean, it's pretty much, I wouldn't say identical, but it's very close. And it's a pretty popular game.
Oh, so I'm looking at your notes now, and when you said Earhart, I thought you were talking about this was a game based on Amelia Earhart.
Right, yeah.
But it's not, though.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's not. It's not. It looks a lot like this game. So one thing about this guy, this Don, is you understand he's a laid back dude, okay, and he was in no hurry because he worked from home, and Broderman didn't give a crap what he did. So he took 3 years to make Earhart, and it turned out okay. He took some stuff out of it because he couldn't get it to work. And in between the times he was working on it, he would work on other stuff and just get rid of it. He says it himself that the way he works is like he wasn't tied to anything, so if he didn't like the way a game was going, he would just kill it. And he apparently killed some stuff that they wanted. He's like, I got bored with it. It's gone. He worked on an airplane, like a seaplane game, that apparently they were frothing over. And he was like, I got bored with it. He just got rid of it.
Wow.
So that's the way he is, right? So Earhart comes out. It's pretty popular on that system. And so he's like, well, I'm going to try to do a newer version. And he was looking at what computers were coming along. And what he really was excited about was the 68000 series with the Amiga. And so it was time to put out another game. And the Atari ST was another one he liked. And so the next game he came out with after a couple more years of programming was Typhoon Thompson in Search for the Sea Child. And so he played it out, and he actually programmed the very first one was on the Atari ST. And so the Amiga version sort of a play off the ST. And just as a side note, I was looking at an issue, I was looking for reviews on this, and there aren't a ton of reviews. I mean, there are some, but I was looking at a review for the Atari ST version because it came out in 89. It got a real good review, but one thing it mentioned that I loved, it said like if you're waiting around for the Amiga version, it's not going to happen. No chance of that coming out. You're screwed. And then lo and behold, it's just so.
This was a little editorializing on the part of the Atari ST.
Right. Well, I guess it's funny. They had a section at the bottom for like DOS and Amiga. So I guess if this came out on other platforms, they might have compared them or something, or maybe just mocked them. Who knows? So anyway, with all that said, the fellow that brought us Choplifter, and I also should add that he also converted. We actually have covered one of his games. He converted over Prince of Persia. Oh. And he did the programming on the Amiga and did a darn fine job on that. So this is the same fellow that did that. So as I mentioned, this came out in 1990. It was a single disc, and again, it was developed by Dan Gorlin Productions, which is basically Dan, and some, he had some artists and stuff with him. They didn't do much else. It was published by Broderbund in the U.S., and of course, Broderbund, their big claim to fame was the Carmen Sandiego series, which I know you love. And Domark did the
I love Broderbund. I like a lot of Broderbund software, actually.
Yeah. It's funny, on the Amiga, Broderbund, whenever I think of Broderbund, I think of Atari.
Yeah, 8-bit stuff.
And so I'm looking over what they did on the Amiga, and what they did mostly was the Carmen Sandiegos. They did Prince of Persia and Karateka, which wasn't on the Amiga. It got converted over. But they also did Wings of Fury, which I remember playing, and they did Shuttlepuck Cafe, which I remember playing. But really, that's pretty much all they did. Joan of Arc. They didn't do anything big, big titles. Like, were they the ones behind like the print shops? So I know they did some. Yeah,
they did print shop. They did a couple like graphic adventure games, stuff like that.
I mean, they were. I think of them as the Atari guys.
I don't know if they did print shop or not.
I'm not sure on that one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember they did some utilities. So. This game was, the guys that worked on it, Roy didn't do anything else on the Amiga except for the graphics guy. He did the Gateway and Treasures of the Savage Frontier D&D games. So there's that. Not that much. Again, this game only appeared on the Amiga, on the Atari 2 and the 2GS and the...
Wait a minute.
Excuse me, the Apple II. Okay. Well, wouldn't that have been something, right? I just blew minds. And the Atari ST. So, Roy, you're looking at three basic systems. And the Atari... From what I could tell, the Apple II that they're adding in on this is Earhart. So it's really not entirely the same game.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same game. So let's talk about this game, the game itself. So the game, believe it or not, I had to look long and hard to find the storyline. Because, I mean, did you know the exact storyline when you were playing this?
I remember reading about it in the... in the docs, and it's
I had to look at the Atari ST docs for it. So I'm just going to kind of give you because it's sort of important. So basically, you're an alien race, and you have a flight that goes down on this ocean planet. Okay, and there's a faint signal that says someone's still alive. They think it's a child, right? So you are Typhoon Thompson, and basically, from what the documents say, they don't necessarily say what you did wrong, but apparently you're a screw up, and this is the last chance you've got before they just get rid of you. So if you don't get the kid, you're boned, basically. And so they outfit you with this little hovercraft, and actually you've got you end up all the hovercrafts you've got the one they leave you with. And all the extra ones you got are from the previous rescue missions that all failed. So those two water phantoms or whatever, they actually have the other hovercrafts. They're from the wrecked ones. That's really uplifting. So like here's all the dead people. We scraped them out of there. Hop in. So this game, so it takes place on the water. Really, you don't ever see land. It's all water.
It's water world.
It is water world, and you play this with the mouse. And the graphics are very small. So when you are on the screen, you're pretty tiny on the screen. It looks pretty vast, which I guess that's what they were going for. And you move forward with the mouse. The hovercraft goes forward, backward, left, right. It's pretty obvious. If you hit your mouse button, the thrusters kick in depending on which way you're going. And then your other button shoots whatever weapon you've got, or actually shoots a cannon, and you can shoot different weapons with combinations of the buttons.
One thing, and I don't know if you're going to mention this or not, so I'll go ahead and mention it. One thing that's neat about this game is that if you hit, I think F2 or F3, it actually brings up the entire control scheme of the game. And that's very useful and not something that you see a lot in classic computer games.
That is true. And I actually used that at first. I was like, okay, let's see what's going on here. And you're right. It's actually got a pretty robust function screen there. It's got all the functions of the different various buttons laid out, which is very helpful. So what do you do in this game? Well, you're trying to rescue this child. So this land is inhabited by these sea fairies, basically, and they have kidnapped the child, and so they live in these little, I don't know what you call buoys. Let's go with that. And so they're when you go out to where they're at, there are buoys that are usually in something like a semicircle or something, And at first, the very first thing you do in the game is these two big hooded figures will give you a mission. We want you to go and get the hammer, get the pacifier, whatever it is. And then you basically roll your boat out there, your hovercraft, to where these buoys are, and you shoot them or run into them. And when you do that, stuff pops out the top. And in the early stages, like one or two things will pop off. And what these things are enemies, and there are various kinds of enemies. There are some that shoot. There are things that shoot bubbles, and there are things that'll pick you up and drag you and destroy your craft. Then there are things that just hit you and sink you, right, and you're boned. When you shoot these things, a little dude pops out. I mean, literally, they shoot off in a various direction, and then you've got to drive your hovercraft up beside them and grab them and stuff them in a bag. All right. And when you get everything that was in that buoy, the buoy's little light on the buoy shuts off, and you know you've cleared that buoy. This is pretty much the game. I mean, that's the game. And once you get all the buoys cleared, it plays a little fanfare, and then you go to there'll be a little glowing dot on the screen. You put your thing on, and what happens, which is actually kind of funny, a little guy will come out of this middle buoy, and he'll shake his fist at you because you've got all of his buddies in their bag. And in return for releasing all of his buddies, he gives you whatever you're after at that point, a sword, the hammer, the pacifier, whatever it is. And then you drive back and meet up with the hooded guys again for your next mission. There are 4 missions, and at the end there's like an end boss. So really technically it's 5 missions. And then after that the game ends. You know, what's different in the various the more levels are you get different weapons. There's a freeze bomb. There's a shatter thing. There's a thing that attracts the bad guys that makes them easier to catch. But basically, what really differs is the fact that when you hit those buoys, more guys pop out, and more guys pop out as you go.
Yeah, that's the difficulty curve.
Yeah, the screen they did a good job simulating the water. I thought it was nicely done. Musically, it's fairly sparse.
Yeah,
you know. It could have done with some dynamic music. Boy, if we could have had some like really truly dynamic music or some beautiful music or something, it would have fit the atmosphere. I will say graphically, aside from water and the sky and the little buoys, there's not much else going on.
Yeah.
What graphics are there are nice.
I mean, there's a day-night cycle.
That is nice. The horizon it's quite beautiful.
Well, it's a lie to call it a day-night cycle. As you progress through the game, it gets darker and darker. It never cycles back.
And the last level looks really cool when it's dark. The bad guys, I like the bad guys when you shoot them and they turn into the little sprites. They're cool looking. And if you take too long, they will basically swim back to their buoy and jump back in. You have to do it all over. The animations in this game are really spot on. There's a thing at the beginning where your guy doesn't want to leave the mothership to get in his little boat, and they basically kick him out. And it varies. There's a couple of different animations for it that are real clever. The part with the big hooded guys is pretty cool looking. The hooded guys look cool. They'll shower you with powers, which is it's kind of neat.
It's odd that they chose guys that look like that to be the good guys.
It is at first. The first thing they do is hit you with this fireball, and I was like, "Oh God, what's happening?" Well, that's a good thing, you know. But
it's giving you power. Right.
It is goofy. You know, I thought it was real goofy actually. So as you progress through the game, these guys send you to pick up different items. All right, a sword, a hammer, a pacifier. What was the other one, Bo?
A balloon.
A balloon, that's it. And which they seem nonsensical until you see the very end, which I could not get to. Did you get to the end?
I definitely could not get to the end, but I watched somebody play the end.
Yeah, I did too. And the ending is cute. I mean, I enjoyed it. And there is some atmosphere to the game. So I can't kill it.
Well, we should probably talk about what the ending is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you collect all of these items, and what you don't realize is that you use all of these items in a specific order to free the Sea Child. So the Sea Child he's in this sort of glass dome sort of thing, so you have to use the hammer to break eye, or to break the dome. You've got to use the balloon to float over to the dome, and then the last move is he's crying when you lift him out, and so you give him the pacifier, and then you hold him up.
You get the sword, the balloon when you get over there, or something like that.
Yeah. So you use every single item, and it's kind of cute. I mean, it's not a huge plot twist or anything, but it's kind of interesting. I thought it was a neat way. Because they don't give you any context, the hooded figures. They just say, we want this, we want this.
Right. And so you don't know what's going on.
Right.
And at the end, your guy sort of stands up triumphantly with the thing. It was nice. Now, niceties aside, I was not fond of this game. And it wasn't because of the aesthetics or the animation. The actual game, I found infuriating. I just found it totally infuriating after the second level. By the third level, when you shoot these buoys, like 10 million things pop out. And every time you shoot one of the things that pop out, there are 2 or 3 things in that. So it's it's insanity. And you have to be incredibly careful in this game not to hit other stuff. God forbid that you hit 2 or 3 of these things, because it's crazy time.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more. And the one thing that frustrated me the most, I could get past multiple guys. I could get past hitting multiple buoys. As I mentioned, you have to drive your hover cart up to the guys and pick them up in your sack. You could park this thing right on top of these suckers, and sometimes he would not put them in the sack.
Yeah.
I wish to you there was a button that would just let me manually put them in the sack, because he does it automatically. Sometimes he won't do it. I don't know if it's because you're not going fast enough. And if 1 or 2 of these guys get back, you've got to start the whole thing again. And on the later levels, like I could easily get past the first and second level, and then the third level was so frustrating. I just said, I just couldn't do it. I tried and tried and tried. Well, I tried different methods. It just drove me nuts.
One of the things that I learned by watching the Let's Play, this is Al82, is what he does is he'll fire, he'll blow up the buoy, and then immediately reverse engines and go far, far away, so he doesn't accidentally blow up anything else. And
that's
then
exactly
comes back.
What I was. That's what I was doing. And you have to use the little fake light that draws them over. I mean, that is a necessity once you get to that third level, because otherwise these things it doesn't take them long to stop floating and to go back into those buoys. And I mean, and sometimes if you have to chase these things out, because when you kill them wherever they're at, they blow out of this thing in a random direction. So you can have to drive all over the place hunting these things down. And there's nothing more frustrating than having almost all these things put away, and there's 1 or 2 that fly back. And then once you shoot them, when they come out, there's going to be 3 or 4 more that fly out. Right. It wasn't fun for me. It was much more irritating. Now, granted, I didn't play this game for months, but I played it a lot. And I found myself not faring much better. And this isn't the kind of hard that we usually talk about on the Amiga, where it's just really hard. I mean, this was the annoying hard where I didn't feel like I was making any progress, and I didn't know how to continue. And I'm like you, I watched some playthroughs to try to figure out what I was doing wrong and try to copy them, but I didn't have much luck. Famously, Jordan Mechner, the guy that did Prince of Persia and Karateka, he had a look at this game before it was released, and he said that the game was beautiful. It was an incredible engine. It was a incredible technology, but the game was boring as hell. And he was, and
I'd agree with that.
And I mean, his assessment was, I think it's pretty accurate. It's plus, let's say you're really good at the game, there's no variance to it at all. And then once 4 levels, if you're a good hand, this game's longevity, the length of it is purely on mass. There's not a ton of extra content. Even if you're great at it, it's going to take you a little while just to get past levels 3 and 4. And by the time you get to the end, you're not going to want to pick it back up. I can't imagine wanting to replay this after you beat it. I can't imagine why you'd want to.
And there's a lot of missed opportunities here. You can dive your hovercraft into the water and drive underwater. Like, why not have like a bonus stage where you're under the water and you're shooting things like, Galaga style or something like that?
It's funny you should mention that, because when I was researching this, he mentioned that he had planned underwater tunnels and stuff, but due to limitations of the hardware or whatever, he didn't put them in. And so I can only assume that though the diving and stuff was part of it, that he was going to have these underwater tunnels. It would have added an element to the game that's not there, a much needed element. This reminds me of something that would be part of a larger game. You know what I'm saying? the element of shooting these buoys. I mean, you've got using the mouse is an interesting way of traveling, but if we establish that the hovercraft is cool, you can move it around. Why not have some races? Why not have some stuff that you need to go somewhere quick, or some jumps, something that wasn't just. I mean, in this game, really, you just go back and forth. There's no high speed running. I mean, you might gonna go back to the two hooded guys real quick, but that's effectively all. Because the thrusters, I found myself using them not very much, you know, because you
get out of control too quickly.
I didn't find the enemies that tough to kill. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It was more the frustration was getting the guys. It wasn't the fact that these enemies were so hard. I mean, sometimes it would snag me. There's an interesting bit where this thing comes up under you. It looks almost like what it reminds me of is the Stanley Cup. It's like the robot version. It scoops you up in its cup and then it destroys your craft. Then you appear back at the beginning, and you have to put, and so you've lost the craft. If you lose all your craft, the game's over. The HUD at the bottom does a reasonable job of showing you how many men you've got left, how many hovercrafts, your direction, how many of the buoys you've taken out, and how much time it's taken. But I mean, really, most of that stuff's sort of kind of pointless. I mean, the compass didn't come into play at all. I mean, it's not like you're traveling a long distance to get to these bad guys. I mean, they're just right there. You know what I'm saying? You just got to go over there. You can see them. You don't need to. I don't know what the compass. I mean, unless you really go far off trying to find these guys. I didn't try to test the boundaries of the ocean, but I didn't really see any need to.
No.
I'm assuming it in somewhere. Again, you get the various weapons. The way he implemented the weapons are like, of course, you've got your regular gun and you've got your thrusters. Then one of the other weapons, if you hold down your thruster button and hit the regular weapon button, you'll get that button. And the other weapon is if you hold down the regular weapon button and tap the thruster button, you'll get that. It's a pretty decent system, I thought, you know. I will say, playing this on my 600, my mouse is now, gosh, what, 30 years old or whatever. So it ain't moving too great these days. And so a game, much like a Marble Madness, a game that relies on good
mouse control. Yeah.
It wasn't, and I played this on the actual Amiga, so I didn't have the best control with the mouse. It was that was sort of frustrating too. I cleaned the mouse a lot and tried it again. But you know, this would probably work better if you had a better mouse.
Yeah,
like an emulator with a laser mouse.
Right, like I was playing this on the emulator, and I thought that it controlled very well. I mean, you could be very precise. That didn't help the awful collision detection when you're scooping up the guys. But I never felt like I was out of control. Like you said, the biggest fault with this game is the lack of variety.
Yeah, and well, to me, it was the frustration. I couldn't get past. I'll tell you, I had nightmares about these little guys. They're about like sea monkeys or something. And when you see one of these suckers swimming back, because they sort of almost transform when they start swimming back. They look like almost like fish. And it's so frustrating. You're just like, no, no, no. I can't tell you how many times I screamed at one of those stupid buoys, whenever, not Bowie, I love him. You know, but yeah, it was a real bummer. You got anything else to add on this one, Bo? I mean, I think that pretty much sums up. You sound like we had a very similar experience on this one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm kind of like you. Missed opportunity. There's so much. The handling of the craft is so interesting that they could have probably done more with just that aspect of the game. Something else they could have done was just made the guys bigger. Now I know maybe there's a reason that everything was so tiny, but I mean, this isn't sensible soccer, man. You could have made these guys. I mean, there's so much of the screen left empty. You know,
you're exactly right. I mean, the only thing I can think of is they just couldn't have got the style of animation that they wanted at the speed.
I suppose so.
But I don't know. I don't know a good reason why everything is so small.
You could have literally at least made these 1.5 times larger, if not 2 times larger, and you would still have been able to see what was going on, in my opinion. So that's just me.
Just one other idea is the way that they kind of do the scaling with the sprites. Maybe it would have distorted them too much to do any bigger. I don't know.
You might be right. So the reviews on this thing. You know, it reviewed okay. It didn't blow anybody's doors off. Amiga Action go to 72.
Man, you printed that in the worst possible way.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's not my fault. What are you gonna do? It's a Lexmark. Enough said. Amiga format gave it an 80. So lots of 70s and 80s, you know, in there. And I mean, I think most people had the same opinion of it that we do. I think you got an 8 on Lemon. You know, which I mean.
That's pretty high.
Yeah. I wouldn't go that high.
No.
You know, like if you compare to say last week's game, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I mean that one's way more fun. The fun factor is the biggest problem. It's got the graphics, it's got the atmosphere.
Right.
It's got everything you'd want, not the music, but it doesn't have the fun factor for me overall. I did look this thing up on the eBay here. If I can find, oh, here it is. So I looked this up on eBay. You can get, these weren't falling out of the sky, I can tell you that. There's a box copy in Austria, if you're feeling froggy. $25 US, not bad,
No.
right? You can get the discs in the UK for about $9 US. And a box copy recently sold in Germany for $7 American. Not too bad. So if
This is a good one to pick up if you're looking to collect on the cheap.
that's right. Oh, I should also mention this game has no score per se.
Yeah.
And so I guess it ranks you at the end based on how long it took you, which is another Prince of Persia gimmick. And the reason is old Dan does not like scores. He just thinks they're boring and doesn't put them in there. So there you go.
All right. Well, Aaron, we should probably remind everybody that we do record Amigos and our sister show, ARG Presents Live, every Friday night. Friday night for us, it's 5:30 Eastern time, or around there. And you can hang out with the fine folks in the chat, like Ricky DeRocher. Got Henrik Anderson in the house, Brutal Barracuda, Pixels at Dawn, Paula Harrington, Dan Ross, Kate P, Duncan Stiles. We got a huge crowd out tonight for the show.
Necronom was in there too.
Yeah, that's and Paul. And,
oh, is that?
Yeah, that's who that is.
I love your evil name.
And so you can hang out with those folks. Oftentimes, as we always say, the conversation in the chat is more entertaining than the show
That's
itself.
almost another show.
Yeah.
You just kind of look at that.
Yeah. As always, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
All of our Discord buddies, hi to them.
Yep.
I love that.
And also Google Plus. Can't forget about that.
Google Plus, Instagram.
But now it's time.
Everywhere.
You know, last week, Aaron, we started the contest.
Oh yes, I was wondering how this would go.
Yeah. So I played a song for the Patreon supporters, and I got no entries. I think I went a little bit too deep of a cut.
Because I had no idea what, and I still don't know. So are you going to reveal that?
So last week's song was track 2 on the debut Weezer album, the Blue Album, called No One Else.
No one's going to get that, Bo.
You know, I took a risk. It didn't pay out.
Good God. This isn't Name That Tune, man.
So this week I'm going to go with something a little easier. I think you might be able to get.
Like We Will Rock You or something, or something so... We're going to go the other way. Something so dumb, guys, stupid, that you have to be an idiot not to win the contest.
I think you should get this one. So just to restate, we are having a contest.
You better restate it twice.
That we're going to
just no sold that one.
We're going to play. I'm going to play the normal Patreon song. If you know the song that I'm singing, then you can email me at john@amigospodcast.com with your guess and your mailing address and your favorite episode of Amigos, and I will send you a special prize.
Oh boy!
And so, without further ado, here is this week's song. Donald, Tyler, Level, Lord John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky DeRocher, Creepy Dead Boy, Figgy CTZ, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sorgård Martinsen, Edvin Helen, Blender 75, Christopher Hessel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Foles, Dreamcatcher, Lauren, Drew, Brand Vedke, Brent Dowdy, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien, Retro Vintage, Gary Hucker, C. Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Stiles, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Knapp, Will Williams, Adam Bradley, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Humbertstein,
Beautiful.
All right.
Yeah, you wrote reverse on that one compared to last week's.
So, Aaron.
Yeah.
Next week on Amigos, we are going to be doing Brutal Barracudas. Pick another Amigos game selection committee member. He is chosen for us to play and discuss Cruise for a Corpse.
I've heard about this game. I swear it's came up a million times in my histories, and I've no idea what it is. So I am actually looking forward to this.
Awesome.
This is another one like this week's where I've got no idea what we're in store for.
Yeah, I can't wait to check it out. So make sure you tune in live if you want to next Friday around 5:30 Eastern, or you can watch us anytime on YouTube or on the podcast. So, Aaron, until next week, we'll see you next time, folks. Adios. All right. That's it. That's the show.
That's it, man. It's over. It's a done deal. Someone should put together all the times we have an awkward silence between us. That would dwarf the mailbag section. Anytime, because I know you've done it to me hundreds of times, and every once in a while I get you to just look at me like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And I don't know. And that's a show right there.
just
the most
just
awkward
the
moments
silence.
of the Amigos.
Yeah.
Just when we look at each other and wonder what to say next.
Yeah, real shows actually do have people that do that. They call them cringe-worthy moments or stuff like that, and so
that's all we need.
That's our show is one big cringe-worthy moment.
Just as soon as the camera comes on, start cringing now.
Chris says that he just took the plunge on the Piecade. He bought one of those kits where you make the bar top, the bar top
those
thing.
look nice, don't they, man?
Yeah, and so the one he was talking about sounded really cool.
I've almost built those like a million times, but then, I'm always like, well, I don't have a bar. There's that. And then
you've also got a full size arcade in your backyard.
I mean, I'm talking about back in the day, like when I worked on the mountain. When I worked on the mountain, because I was a miner up there. When I lived on the mountain, I was like, well, I can probably get one of those little ones. I was like, no, just drag a full size machine up the hill like an idiot.
Where did you get that machine from?
The Lilies.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that was from the Lilies.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was Mike Lilly. He had a Street Fighter. He just gave up. Much like Chad. They had it. They just sat there for a while. And they just gave up on it. So. Yeah, so someone's got to win your contest this week, Boot.
Yeah, I think so.
Even I knew that one. By the way, I was hoping when you were doing the chorus, I was hoping you'd be like, I can't remember whose name you said, whose name came up. I was hoping you'd repeat it.
Yeah. It was kind of a
No, I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it together.
You went through like a whole verse with the names.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous. It's a lot of people.
It is. And I didn't talk about this on the show. I should have mentioned our new tier. If you want to sponsor the Amigos, then we got the new $25 a month tier.
What does that get you?
That gets you
you just get to live in your basement?
Before the show starts, you can move into the basement. And
you get these pants. I'll give them to you.
You need to auction off those pants for charity.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. That's so disgusting.
That's people.
I can tell you a very similar story, but it's probably not PG enough.
That's what they do on Games Done Quick.
No one does that.
Yeah.
They auction off each other's destroyed pants?
Well, maybe not destroyed pants, but I mean, what other artifacts do we have of this show?
That's not an artifact of the show, Boat.
That's totally an artifact.
I don't want to sell something to someone I don't want to meet or know someone that wants to buy my pants. That's so wrong. Are you kidding me?
They're going to be in some museum, like the Museum of Podcasting.
The Museum of guys that have bad pants because they're cheap.
Where did you get those pants from?
I don't know.
See, you can't tell me that they don't come from a good place.
Every place I go is cheap. So yeah, these are from a cheap pants provider.
I've got cheap pants. I've never had.
You always wear stuff just like that.
Yeah, I guess
or pajamas.
Yeah.
Or shorts. You never wear anything crummy.
Well, sometimes I do.
When?
I've got like old T-shirts.
That green suit you wore? Put that up for auction. That thing's god awful.
That's not a bad idea.
Who would buy that?
It's a piece of Amigos history.
Is there an Amigos fan out there who's the biggest weird freak we've ever seen? Some kind of fetishist?
Well, I'm not going to name names.
So you're saying you know this guy or girl? Man, this is no good.
Pixels at Dawn just suggested that Mope might want it.
Mope? Who's that?
Mope, the Museum of Podcasting Excellence.
So that doesn't mean Mope doesn't know about us. Is there a dope?
Well, you just create something like you listen to Rush sometimes. You know how he has the golden EAB microphone. EIB. It's totally made up.
Yeah,
you know?
I know. I don't know, man. I don't remember what I was thinking back. I was listening to an old episode. Remember that year we won that award? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
What was that?
That was some guy at Atari Age does those every year.
Right? Are they still doing them? Who won last year?
We might check. Maybe we won last year and we just didn't know about it.
Sure, but didn't that let you know?
I don't know how I knew. Maybe he did. Yeah, he told me that we were shortlisted and we won or something like that. We probably didn't win.
I remember when I put together Shaggy's, God rest his soul, I put together his webpage, the Out There site. I gave him an award I made up on the fly. You know,
that's what you do.
It was the Out There award.
You put those feathers, those feathers out like that, and put an award.
I remember back in the old days of web pages, they would put all those little blocks in the bottom. Here's what all the stuff we won. You know.
Oh yeah, right next to the under construction GIF.
Yeah,
the guy,
and the web ring.
Yeah,
that you'd be a part of.
I loved getting a good web ring.
If we ever put up another site, we should go to like GeoCities ripoff and make the.
I'm pretty sure there are skins that will do that automatically for you. Just create my bad 1995 GeoCities page. Paul, you were asking about the what I was using for a Friday free-for-all. It is an original Xbox that Aaron made for me that's got coin ops, but was given to me by none other than Chad Wilcox for my birthday one year.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny because I gave away Xboxes one year too.
Maybe he gave me the one you gave him.
Well, actually, Chad was in the game early with me, so we both have.
But it's an awesome interface. I wish that it had a higher def output, but
you can get the
I've got S-Video. I've got S-Video already.
We don't have component inputs. The problem. If we had one, we'd be laughing. You know, hey, the Raspberry Pi is a pretty good output. I'll use it sometimes.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to get our silver box over there to output to some sort of a program because right now it can only.
Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver box.
Did you?
No. I was never young. That's the problem.
Even as a child?
I grew up, and as soon as I came out of the womb, beard. And it was great.
I've
bald.
seen pictures of you in high school. You look very similar to the way you look now.
It was unsettling. You know, you walk out, but that's the way it is, man.
That's the way it goes. Yeah, MIDI. Definitely have to have MIDI in the background. I'm talking about GeoCities pages. My song, my first AOL site, which is still archived on the Internet Archive, members.aol.com/Hajij. It played Luna by Smashing Pumpkins when you entered it. It had this row of smiley faces. Oh, it was beautiful.
My first page was the Aaron's Paranormal Research page, but one of the sub pages was a Luchador tribute page I put together, and it was me. I wrote a bunch of little diatribes about how the WCW is doing a horrible job pushing the Luchadors. I was appalled.
You need to link that up on the Google Plus.
Some of the Luchadors went there. I remember that they signed my guest book. I was like, oh boy,
that's another thing. You got to have the guest book.
Yeah.
The guest book, man, that was great.
I had one page. My paranormal page had a bunch of the background because you had the big
tiled background.
It was the Devil Tarot card just over and over. You know, it looked awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not a Satanist, but I mean I've always been into sort of the
you just play one
accoutrements.
on TV.
If I had a cape, I'd wear it just like Anton LaVey.
Well, I don't think
you should look up Anton LaVey sometime.
All right.
Don't do it now, but on your leisure, you can see he was an interesting fellow. He lied a lot. I guess that's part of it.
A part of being a Satanist.
He was known as the Black Pope. How about that?
I think that if you want to get people to pay attention to you, calling yourself the Black Pope is a good way to do it.
No, he didn't call himself that. He was dubbed that.
Oh, who dubbed him that?
Some magazine. He was in all the magazines, but he also wearing a cape around.
I mean, that was probably his day job, right?
Do you know who Ming the Merciless is from the movie? Remember that movie?
I thought he was a wrestler.
Remember Flash? Flash. Oh.
Yep.
Remember Ming?
Yep.
What was that guy's name?
Sidney Poitier?
No. Sidney Poitier, isn't he black?
Yeah.
Ming the Merciless isn't black. He's white.
Okay.
It was Von Snydau. But anyway, he was a mean-looking guy. He looked a lot like Anton. You've never seen that movie, have you?
No.
It's because of the violence.
Flash?
Yeah.
No, it's just because
it's pretty violent.
I just haven't
People
seen
get impaled and stuff.
Do they really? I thought it was kind of like a light. Like seriously, I thought it was like PG. Like this is like a hard R. Flash.
It's not a hard R.
I mean, you were talking about it like it's
not a hard R.
Like it's a Rob Zombie film.
No, it's not a hard R. But I mean, people get killed.
As long as it's
it had Brian Blessed in it, who's awesome. It had James Bond was in it. It had who else was in it? Of course, Snide Owl, whatever his name is, was in it. He's good. He had a lot of people in it. And Queen played the soundtrack.
I mean, is it worth watching if it's on Netflix?
It's goofy.
I like goofy.
You like goofy stuff?
Yeah.
Then yeah, I'd watch it. But I mean, as a kid, I thought it was sort of violent. But as an adult, it's like, it's much less violent, I would wager, than I thought it was back then. I don't know if I'd watch it again. It's got a good soundtrack.
They're trying to get you to watch Dune. All those guys in Discord.
Oh man, I know. They're pushing it on me.
I can't believe you haven't seen it. You've seen so many bad films.
See, he got it. Thank you, Duncan.
Side Owl.
That's right. Max von Sydow. And yeah, Duncan knows. Max was also, you ever seen Needful Things? He was in that. He was in, you know what he was in? His claim to fame? Strange Brew. Strange Brew.
I have seen that.
With the Bob Doug McKenzie? Yeah. That's a good flick. I'm real fond of that one, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a well-traveled actor. I'm sure he's done other stuff, but those are the best ones. You don't care, do you? You're just filling time now. Just waiting for you to shut up so you can end the show. You have nothing to add, no colorful comments, no nothing.
Well, do you want to actually talk about video games that you've played this week that might not be?
I played a lot of games this week, actually.
Did you play anything that... Talk to me about it.
Let's see here. I've been testing a retro Pie this week. And so I've played some stuff, and I mentioned this on this Discord, was the Game Boy Donkey Kong. Where the heck that come from? That's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it plays well. It looks good on the TV. Even it looks good. And so I thought that was pretty cool. I played a lot. What was it I was playing on the Atari this week? It was a lot of fun too. Oh, I remember liking it, but I'd forgotten about it. You ever watched the Angry Video Game Nerd? Probably not.
Yeah, I've seen almost everything that he did.
Really?
Yeah.
But I thought you hated like cursing.
I don't really like it, but I mean, in the early days of like internet video, like if you wanted to watch retro stuff, that was.
Well, his stuff. He's a one-trick pony,
yeah.
But he did have this Punch-Out ripoff for the Atari. Great. It's great.
It's called like AVG unboxing or something
like that.
Yeah,
it's tremendous fun. It's got all the different characters from the show. You get to box them. It's really fun. I played that. I played a lot of Smurfs and I played a lot of that Smurf variant, and it's free to play on the web. So I played a lot of
Yeah, I played some of that too. I enjoyed it.
And then I played the Atari version. I played a lot of that. I tried to get into Ladybug. I swear to God, but I just couldn't do it.
I understand.
I knew when you picked it, I was like, oh man, of all the games.
It's funny though, because I love, like, Universal might be my favorite developer, publisher of all time. Like, I don't think they did anything that I don't like.
They're unique.
Yeah.
I mean, their stuff is, even this is right. But calling this a Pac-Man collection, you're really stretching at that point.
Yeah.
Yes, you collect dots in a maze, but I mean, that's pretty much where the similarity ends.
Yeah. It's a stretch, but I mean, it's at the highest level. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But like Domino Man, I love Domino Man. Tapper, there's a wood.
Is Tapper Universal?
Yeah. There's a logging game.
Oh yeah. What's that called? I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's the same guy that's in Domino Man. He's just wearing a toque.
Yeah. He gets around.
What's that crazy game where you're the thing on wheels and you can go up and down?
I know what you're talking about.
I love that game too.
You're not talking about what is the name of that stupid game? I can't remember.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. It's an evolution rather than a clone.
Oh, you know what else I played this week? Speaking of, was ColecoVision Bump and Jump. Have you ever played that? Yeah, no. It's not bad. ColecoVision had a lot of good arcade games. It's funny how they've went up in price, and of all the classic consoles, the really old ones, Coleco's demanding more than almost all the other ones, which is weird to me, because before Coleco's weren't worth a crap.
Well, I think that it has to do with how many. I mean, even if they sold 2 to 6 million, I mean, Atari sold at least 10 million or 10 times that many. So there's just less of them around.
I suppose. Plus, 2 to 6 million. That's a pretty good. They sold a lot of units.
Plus the ColecoVision, I think that a lot of them broke more easily than Atari units. The Atari 2600 is a tank.
You could beat a man to death with that thing.
Yeah. And plus, like, here's another thing. I think a lot of ColecoVisions ended up getting thrown away because they were so big and bulky and heavy, versus the Atari was comparatively light. You put that in a closet and forget about it.
If you've ever been inside of ColecoVision. They didn't need all that space. They went with the Atari 5200 philosophy of like, let's store the sticks in here and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, when you've got the things directly on your TV, no problem. But then again, they provide the world's shortest sticks, which the Intellivision did the same thing. So I was like, listen, if you're going to have your controllers stored in this thing, that's great. But I mean, where are we supposed to put this thing? You know, at least give us something. You know, it's too short.
Yeah.
And the fact that they use like that phone cord type of cording, that stuff gets tied up.
Yeah.
Disaster.
Yeah.
You know, there's Coleco is another company. Like, yeah, it's a good. They took a good system, and just like the Odyssey, where let's not have it so you can't take the joysticks off. That's idiotic.
Yeah.
You know, and the Intellivision did that too. The first series, not smart. So you know, man. But man, they could port some arcade games to it. You know, they had. You know, I played the crap out of some Venture on there. I don't know if you ever played that on there.
I don't think I've played the ColecoVision version.
It's good. Oh, it's real good. You know, real good. Buck Rogers is good on there. They did a lot of.
It seems
good
like
stuff.
all the programming went into making these modes that could display exactly, you know, what the arcade machine was displaying, you know, in terms of the way that the text is set on the screen and things like that.
Yeah.
It's very impressive, but it seems like it was sort of a unipurpose system.
I'll tell you something else too. I mean, the effect of Donkey Kong as a packing cannot be understated. That was like I remember seeing the commercials for that thing, and we're just like,
oh, it still looks fantastic.
I mean, it's like,
yeah.
What is this? This looks like the arcade.
Right.
You know, you look at it now, but I mean,
it still looks pretty darn
amazing.
good. Yeah.
You know, the 7800 had some good Donkey Kongs on it too. I mean, but of course you're talking about
many years down the road.
If you think about it, the ColecoVision competed with the 2600, sure, but they were really competing with like the 5200, right? And really, the 5200, this ballyhooed system, it wasn't exactly cranking out better stuff than the Coleco, right? Plus, they did the crap, which I don't know what was going on back in the 80s, but like it was a competition who could put the most crummy joysticks out, right?
Yeah.
And they put out even crummier sticks. So which one? Which one do you hate more? Do you hate the Atari 7800 stick, the Intellivision stick, or the ColecoVision stick? Which one do you hate the most?
7800 Intellivision or ColecoVision?
Yeah. And keep in mind, I don't mean the gamepad for 7800.
I'd say I haven't spent enough time with the ColecoVision, so I can't answer that one. But between the two, I would rather use the 7800 stick just because that stick is marginally better because you can hold on to it with your hand a little bit more. They're both terrible though. I
mean, I didn't put the 5200 in here because it was the clear winner. It's the worst. But I mean, they had a real thing for a dial system, you know, and even like the Jag had it too. And really, you get to a point where, I mean, do you really need a phone dial in there?
Right.
Probably not.
I saw somebody has modded a Jag controller to work with the ColecoVision. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and the numpad. There's an overlay that shows you what numbers they are for the numpad.
Yeah, I thought the worst idea. You know, Nintendo. Everybody loves the NES. The NES, which we know had some engineering problems in America with that god awful cart. But I mean, I think I stand by this. One of the big keys to the NES winning, right? The games, whatever. It was the gamepad.
Yeah.
I mean, when you can't think of all the horrible gamepads that you're dealing with, all of a sudden you got. I mean, and don't get me wrong, the NES gamepad is god awful. I mean, it's so uncomfortable to hold. It's a big square.
But compared, right?
It's like, I mean, and then here comes the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Holy cow! It's like ambrosia.
Yeah.
Compared, I mean, those were horrible. And the NES gamepad, you only need the two buttons. You get start and select. You're golden.
Right.
And it played so many games. I mean, if you compared the NES libraries, like the 7800 library, I'm not talking about the overall library. I'm talking about the quality of it. I mean, it had the sound beat. But, I mean, the 7800 could, in terms of processing power, if it could stay on the same level, did they have as good a games? No. But from a horsepower perspective, it could have been there.
Yeah.
And if they'd shipped it with a gamepad instead of that god-awful joystick, and it had some developers of some worth, they may have had a shot.
Sure.
And keeping it 2600 compatible, it's a good idea.
Right.
But leaving the same sound in was a mistake.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake.
You know.
And the fact that they still believed that the main reason why people bought video games in 1985 was to play arcade ports, and that was not the case.
Well, you know, when you picked, what'd you pick for the
Ninja
next
Golf?
week? That's a good pick, and I've not played it. The reason I picked Asteroids is, and I'll just tell you now, it's because I think it's one of the best versions of Asteroid. including the 8 bits, which that's how I'm going to push it, you know. But I mean, in all honesty, what is the standout game on the 7800 of all the games? Who knows? Really, I mean, is there one?
Yeah, Food Fight.
See, I don't think. I mean, Food Fight's a good conversion, but I never liked that game in the arcade that much.
See, to me, that's the ultimate 7800.
I never did it for me. Like if I was going to pick my favorite 7800 game, you know, Mario Brothers is pretty good. I almost picked that. You know, but I mean, you know, they just shoveled the same stuff that they've been shoveling for 10 years.
Right.
You know, you can only do it for so long.
Yeah.
You know, and Nintendo gets away with it because at least their games are evolutionary. Mario's been in a million games. You know, but you can't they didn't just take Mario Brothers and just pitch it on every new machine and it's exactly the same.
Nobody's saying, oh man, Mario Odyssey, it's another Mario game doing the same stuff.
Right,
you know?
no one. And just like Mario Galaxy was completely different, you know.
Right.
Atari was a victim of their own early success, and they never ever changed.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I don't know what's going on with Atari now. Of course, it's a different guru with this whole Atari box and stuff. But I mean, it looks like that's going to be a complete vaporware system.
It's not looking good for the Atari box.
You know, but hell, we'll give it a shot next week and see what we can come up with. 7800's got an interesting story behind it, if anything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about Atari. You know, from the time. Probably, you know, up through, I'm less interested in the Jag years, but all the way up through the 7800, it's a fascinating story. And even into the Lynx and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's take it. Let's call it a night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week. I may stream a little bit this week as long as the strike is still going on and I'm sitting at home doing nothing. So
adios, guys.
Adios.